please welcome my guest for this evening, Woody.
Hello.
Hello, hello. How are you doing, Woody?
Good. How are you doing, Jay?
I am fantastic. I'm guessing that most folks in chat are going to be familiar with you already, but for anyone who might be watching and not know who you are, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Woody of Woody Devs. I am an interactive developer who's building content in and about Unreal Engine, and along the way, doing all the weird experiments that I possibly can.
Yes, I'm trying to remember how you first came to my attention. I think that I had heard your name floated around a couple different places because, like you mentioned, you are one of the folks that are sort of quietly at the forefront of Unreal development in the VTuber community in particular. That you've done some work with some folks who have actually been on this show before.
Quietly at the forefront. Yikes, I'm not doing this right.
But I think the one that really sort of got you on my radar was you did the Taka Gatekeeper game, and that was just a wild one. But you've done a lot of things, and one thing that you mentioned in your intro video and on your Twitter profile is that in addition to all the work that you do in Unreal, is that you've done filmmaking for 10 years, and that ends up being a bit of a background for you. So I'm curious, just chronologically, what comes first, development or filmmaking, and how do those end up blending? Because those are two areas that are not inherently going to be related or that somebody is going to have proficiency in both.
Oh, well, I feel like that's going to change. Like, I feel like that's, well, maybe I'll get to that. So I grew up like making all kinds of stuff, like drawing all the time. Me and my brother both just like were very into whatever we could get our hands on. And one of the things I got my hands on, and it's like it kind of happened at the same time. It's like a fuzzy timeline actually. So like there was a birthday that I had when I was like 12 maybe, where I asked for a Nintendo DS but received a what's the name of it? It was like a flip video camera, and it was like the last one before they I think it was like the last one by RCA before it like spun off into its own little sub brand. But do you remember the flip video camera, Jay? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Gosh, I've never been much for cameras. Because we're not talking GoPro or anything, because that wasn't a flip camera.
No, the GoPro wasn't around yet. So this was like a long time ago, and this is like one of the first cameras that isn't like a big hoity-toity VHS camera. This is like a like a little teeny tiny like fits in the
like camcorder.
Yeah, it'd be like the size of like like if you glued 3 iPhones together, something like that. It's a little bulkier.
So you asked for a DS and you got a camera. Then that's as a kid, that might be a little bit disappointing, but it sounds like you made the best of it.
Yeah. So they definitely like changed some stuff because like I made so much ridiculous stuff on that camera, like just like so many different things. But it was at the very same time, like I was also building a lot of games in this game engine called I barely know who owns it now. It was at the time I think it was called now it's owned by Click Team. It may have still been Click Team at the time. It's a program called Fusion, which was a no-code game engine where you could like just kind of put things in this little 2D editor, and then you could like go into the back end of it, and like it had like these little like cells where you could like right click and define actions. So you would like make events, and those are your rows. It was like basically like a spreadsheet style programming engine that had like a sprite editor and stuff. And I didn't end up having a DS, but I ended up making a lot of other games at that time, which was a ton of fun. Got super into some of that stuff. It was just at that time, like specifically both of those things happened. So it's not like one came before the other, but like definitely one of those things, like both of those things were like really remarkable. There, like you mentioned, like the intro video I have on my Twitter page, like I talked about, like, yes, I have worked professionally as a filmmaker for a really long time, but also I talk about how like when I was a kid, I used to make games, and like literally during COVID, like reconnected with an old friend who this friend is just kind of like a I don't know, has like a different relationship with nostalgia than me. And just like out of curiosity, I was like, hey, do you have any of those old games I used to make? And like he found an old hard drive and found all of these old games that I made when I was a
Oh,
kid.
that's amazing.
So like, yeah, and which are still playable executable files. So like, he was able to get them back to me, and I was like able to replay them, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. Like I had like my like I had my own little like cinematic universe. Like, you know, like I mean, at the time, you know, I'm playing like a bunch of Nintendo games, and Mario gets together with the Fire Emblem characters to do Smash Brothers and stuff. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
everyone's classic fanfics. Of
yeah.
just,
So I like,
can we get these games mashed together? Nintendo's not going to do it, so fine, I'll do it myself.
yeah. So no, not at all. I had my own little IPs, and they like had their own games, but then they would also be in like spin-off games together. Like so, like I had a bunch of different characters. Like I had like a couple platformer games. I had some like games that were just more like simple arcade games that were easier to put together. But like I had, I'm gonna guess somewhere between, I'm gonna guess around like 12 games that we made. Like either
Holy cow, that's a lot.
yeah. So like during library class, if you had like a library class, if you went to the kind of school I did, like the uh basically like, you know, like people like couldn't get on Newgrounds or something like that, and then like I had a flash drive with all of these games. So I was like the elementary school kingpin of games. Like I could like had the flash drive, and people would like, even without me, like people would swap the games off of like each other's drives. So like it would like get out of my hands. So like some like I'm like, I didn't give this person this game, and they like got it from some other kid, and they were like playing the
Baby's
games.
first file sharing.
Yeah. Well, what was insane about it is like I don't even know how I did this. Like looking back, like I'm not sure how it happened, but like I built one application that was like kind of a chat room. Like I still don't know how that happened. And like but it worked. Like I built a working chat room, but I built it with like almost no parameters or any sense of back-end development. I still have almost like no sense of back-end development. And basically like somehow some kid got one and we didn't know who it was. So like everyone could like name themselves and just join this chat. And then someone else was just there that we didn't know.
Oh
So like, the
gosh,
next day at school,
you
we
just
were
had like this mystery enigma of
yeah.
who is it? How did they get here?
Yeah, so we're like, is it Josh? Did Josh do this? Like, it was probably Josh, right? You know, old troublemaker Josh. He was probably the one who like got the extra file somehow. But it was like it was mysterious because they used a pseudonym, and they were very vexing. And that was like the only time we ever used it. Like, I don't know what I was really trying to do there. It's probably just trying to like reinvent the wheel and like make a RuneScape or a Club Penguin or something like that. And but yeah, no, it was just like a very weird thing of like, oh man, I made a thing, and it's like kind of got a life actually beyond just like me and my friends playing it. But it was like, you know, I had friends that would just play my games, and like we would play them at school. It's like it was kind of like my first little publication content creation little experiment, right? Like, you know, had a little bit of an outlet to share something I made with people.
Yeah. Mega Mocap VR in the chat brings up a really good question. Would you ever consider releasing the games on itch? That if you have these executable files that yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything like personal or sensitive on, and obviously wouldn't want to do it in that case, but would you ever consider just putting it up there with the rest of your portfolio, and obviously put the little asterisk of these are very old games, baby's first ones, but if you want to see how far I've come, / if you want to, see where someone can begin and where they can go, would you want to have it out there as almost a self-published museum of your own work?
I don't know if I would put them up like on itch. Like I don't know. Like I still want to make some content about them. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like one thing I really want to do is I want to like do, like everyone's coming out with their remakes right now, their remasters, Metroid Prime remasters going on right now.
You want to remaster your first games
in Unreal Engine 5? Yeah. Like,
oh, okay.
But a little 2D platformer becomes like a 2.5D thing or something. I don't know. Like there's something I played with that idea before. It would just be time intensive. It'd be a lot of fun for sure, and it'd be really fun to like, if I released that, like to have them side by side that you could like play both. One of my characters his name was Blockman, and he was just like a white square, and like he had a face, and he'd just like jump around and stuff. But it'd be really fun to like like he was just a block. Like he would just jump up and down on a bunch of other blocks. I
Oh
think
yeah,
later
that
on
you know.
there was 3 Blockman games. Like there was like by the third one there were like cutscenes and stuff. It'd be really fun to have that game in 3D versus just like the 2D game that it was at the time.
Woody out here making Minecraft before Minecraft.
I don't know about that. It wasn't anything like that. It was like he looked like a little tooth, like just like a little tooth running around. It's kind of weird. But yeah, no, I mean, like probably want to do something with that eventually. What was interesting about it was like, so you can still buy this game engine. Like you did have to purchase it. I'm not sure how we got the original one. If like someone knew my parents just like gave it to us or something. Like this is like, when we first got it, like I wasn't spending a lot of time on the internet, and it sat as untapped potential for a long time before, I like eventually like slammed my head into it long enough to like make fully fledged games. It's still so surreal to me. Like they were fully working executables, and I don't think like it was common to use a lot of no-code game engines at the time. But I remember I was probably like I remember as a teenager, and as a joke, my brother made me another game for Christmas once, and it was like he named the exe file like the exciting, sexy, cool adventures of cool guy Woody, and like
Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people.
that was probably an influence, honestly. Oh man, you want to talk about Strong Bad? Oh man. Well, okay, that's definitely a touchstone reference point for a lot of things that me and my little brother did. But like he made me a game that was basically just like a simulator from like my morning routine or something like that. It was really funny. Like I had to there was like a catcher game element where I had to you had to go back and forth and catch cereal, but avoid forks or something that were like falling through the kitchen.
Classic.
We remade our house in it. It was really cool.
That's impressive.
At the time, I was probably a jerk about it. I was probably like, "What? You don't want to spend $10? Give me a Christmas present? You just want to you just gonna make me a little game?" It was probably not. It was not very charitable in my interpretation. But now I think it's the coolest thing ever. And I live far away from my brother and wish I could spend more time with him. So,
well, that's part of growing up. You don't realize just how much attention and effort goes into things until you're a bit more mature. And that, if you're, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old and you're hoping to get a cool Nintendo game and you get this, little cobbled together thing from your brother, it's like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. And then it's later in life that you realize, oh, wait, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, no, totally. Because later on, it's whatever gadget was in vogue that you would have rather had, or whatever toy or thing, depending, what age you are. It's not as memorable as whatever thing you shared with a family member. It's such a deeper connection.
Mm-hmm.
That game engine though, you can get on Steam. That thing's still out there. You can still I think I just bought it because it was $10 or something. At this point, it's deprecated, but you can get a working game kicked out in 5 minutes. It's a really insanely powerful thing. It's Fusion again. If anyone's curious who's watching this, it's a lot of fun. You can just make some easy 2D games really quick.
That could be one to maybe make a video out of just going back and exploring this deprecated engine and sort of appreciating it for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still work on it, honestly. I messed with it a couple years ago. It was over Christmas time, and I was just with family and I was just hanging out, and I just opened up Fusion, and it was just spent a couple hours and built a little game with a grenade launcher or something, and they had added explosion physics, and I was like, wow, this is so much more detailed than what we had when I was a kid. So I don't know. One of the best kept secrets of game dev is the Fusion engine. It's super cool.
Nice. So you got the camera and not the DS, and that became one of your first forays into filmmaking. You mentioned that you did filmmaking for a decade professionally. So what was that journey like? What was sort of, I guess, for what you're comfortable telling, the origin story of deciding to pursue that as a career path?
Yeah. I think without going too far into my personal stuff, there were some really great circumstances in my life when I was young that let me get to work early on a lot of things. I really didn't like school growing up. It just,
So don't get me wrong. It's I was one of those kids, I was good at school. That didn't mean I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I could I was one of the I was pretty bored at school most of the time. There was like it didn't have like a lot to do with what I wanted to do with my life, which is like, creative work.
Hmm.
So, but like during high school, I had a series of opportunities that allowed me to start working in filmmaking. I went my like freshman year of high school. I oh gosh, this is so long ago. Like I worked all summer to be able to afford a Canon DSLR camera that could shoot 1080p video, but also like could use the Canon lenses so that it would have like really great optical interesting quality, which was like very new at the time.
Hmm.
And it was gosh, I just like made nothing, like sweating my face off in like I worked at a drive-in diner just making
Oh
sandwiches in the
boy.
back. Yeah, it was terrible. Everyone was mean. It was a horrible experience. After that, like I had one other high school job, but for the most part, like I could start freelancing actually. So like I would do some projects I got paid for when I was a high school kid. And before I even graduated, like I had my first demo reel. Demo reels are like just your highlight reel basically.
Yeah, it's the mini portfolio, and that being able to have a professional demo reel, like you're saying, at that age, that's rare. That most folks aren't going to
Yeah,
get that until they're like late into college.
right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like funny you mentioned college because then I decided at that point like I didn't really want to go to college. I had like a little bit of a network in the city where I lived at the time, and yeah, so I like kind of it was just like, well, okay, here we go. Actually, Jay, can I? This is a little bit of a sidebar. Can I tell you like a funny story I was thinking a lot about today?
Please.
So like, okay, yeah. So to take us back a little bit. So like, even before I had the fancy Canon camera, I was still working on film stuff very early on. So I think I got into my first film festival when I was like 15 or something.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Now I guess. So, what was there a specific category for I don't know 16 and under filmmakers, or was this something that were you up there competing against adults?
I did it a couple of years in a row, and I think it like one year they had a category for that. I don't know. It was like it wasn't like a cool film festival that people would like know about. It's like it was just like kind of a like a local
Yeah, a local one.
one in
Even so,
where I lived. But yeah, I mean, like I got into it because a friend's dad was a cinematographer, and she showed him something I made, and he was like, "Hey, you gotta like I know the director of this film festival. Like the deadline's already over. You gotta message him. You gotta get this in there." I was like, "Oh man!" It was like the video was like a stop motion film. Like I felt pretty freaking cool at the time because I had figured out how to do stop motion of myself by like filming myself and then going back in and then like freeze framing a bunch of stuff
oh,
and
that's
then like
interesting. So it almost. So I do not know much about filmmaking. I know the conceptual basics of stop motion filmmaking is that think Tim Burton claymation, that you have the shot, you take a picture, you adjust the figures, you take a picture. But what you're describing is sort of reverse engineered stop motion, where you have motion and then remove it.
yes, sorry, yeah, no, I mean, oh gosh, this is going to be a lot of this interview is like me like just like very casually mentioning something that's like a little bit too high concept that's not like very easy to digest, which is not like a thing I'm proud of. But yeah, so like I figured out like, okay, we could take the video that like I'm just like of me walking, and then I could just like delete a bunch of the frames later and like stick it together, or just like grab grab frames and just like I can't remember exactly how I did
Conceptually,
it.
that has to be a much more efficient way to do stop motion,
Oh gosh,
actually.
yeah, totally, right? So I mean, great for a moving subject too, because then you're not like trying to pose them or anything. Like,
Yeah.
but it was a mixture of things. So there was like stop motion, so there'd be like something like it was also about my morning routine. I think this film. So it was like like my bed makes itself, and like my like backpack like eats my homework to get ready for me to like pick it up to like go out my door or something. I can't remember that much of it, but I remember. So like I did this festival, right? So like, and I felt like, okay, I'm a cool guy. I figured out a really cool workflow, figured out a really interesting way to make this film, and I get to go up on stage at this whatever local place this was held at. I remember it was like some sort of cinema that had like multiple theaters or something. And maybe it did. I don't, it's been so long. But I remember that I got to get up and hold the microphone, and like, I had friends there that came with me and stuff. And like, oh my gosh. So like, I can't remember anything about what I said up there, but I remember when I got off stage, like it was made like abundantly clear to me that I had just like kind of made an ass of myself as a 15-year-old. Like, I don't know how it was exactly, but it was just like a very self-involved, like ego inflated, like weird
no.
thing to say. Yeah. And it was, it was, gosh, it was weird. I think it was nerves mostly, honestly, but I still think about that sometime. It's like just that sort of like head case thing of like, oh man,
if you don't have something that you go back and look at your childhood, and I do still consider 15 years old to be childhood,
sure.
and think, oh gosh, I made an ass of myself, or that was so embarrassing. If you don't have a couple of those moments, have you really lived?
Yeah, no, of course, right? Yeah, no, for sure. And that's like a very tame, like a lot of people have a lot of stuff they're not proud of as a teenager. Mine's just like, I just put on a little bit too much braggadocio at the, the local film festival. It's like, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
It's totally fine. But it was like, it just like was such a scarring memory too, of just like the immediate feedback of like, dude, that was bad. Like, great job with the film, but not great on the relating to everyone else in the audience.
Oh no.
I have no idea what I said. I don't care to.
Yeah,
but
I guess one of the times that you're sort of probably glad, okay, nobody actually recorded this. There is no evidence, hopefully.
I guess, yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting because like that's at the time, like it was Facebook posts, right? So like there would be more pictures of stuff actually, weirdly. Like with Instagram, it's kind of like, here's the pic of the event. Maybe an album. At the time, it was like albums everywhere. Look at all of the photos from the film festival. Like, it's kind of interesting. That's like one area where we actually.
But the photo's fine because the photo doesn't have anything you said on stage. It's just, all right, you're on stage. And as far as most people will remember, they look back and they're like, oh yeah, Woody was on stage, and that the rest of it can just fade into memory and obscurity.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, look, I think it'd probably be pretty funny to me now. Like, I'm a lot older than 15 now, and so that would be interesting. Sorry if I'm looking around. It's like I have a young kitten who's like, I didn't realize like I trapped in this room, who is about to. I might need to just let her out of the door real quick.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Not the first or the last time that a furry friend would make a cameo appearance on Vtuber Talk.
Yeah, I realized that I'm like, oh wait, yeah, like everyone can see my head motion. They can see what's going on with my face.
Your tracking is indeed quite good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So this is like, all my VTuber stuff is custom. So like I make all of everything you're seeing. Like I modeled this model, and I also did all of the motion capture. And honestly, I've been using it for long enough now. It doesn't feel like as much of a brag as it used to be, because it's like I've been staring at this thing and like the way it works for a long time, and like I'm definitely wanting to do some upgrades at some point. So yeah, like that's maybe a weird flash forward, because like I don't know, that's or maybe it's the perfect flash forward, because at 15,
your first film festival was there, and that you mentioned that you were then decided to not go to college, was it?
Yeah, I totally lucked out, or I didn't luck out, honestly. Like I did put some effort in high school, and I did some work with people, and I legitimately made a couple $100 doing film stuff, but like I had enough work to show people at the end of high school, and had the right connections, knew the right people, and in full honesty, like partially through my parents, because like not that many people want to say that, you know what I mean? Like,
there's a balance, and certainly in entertainment, in filmmaking, in many industries, even ones that aren't entertainment and filmmaking, connections matter. And that if you are fortunate enough to have them, that will get you in the door. But most of the time, that's it. And that if you get in the door and then fall flat on your face, especially in entertainment, unless you have some like absurdly, anomalously famous parents, that the entertainment industry will ruthlessly cut you out if you are in the door and then fall on your face because, you know, people don't
That's
have time for
That's all
people
true.
to mess up.
I mean, I worked at a nonprofit after high school, so, like, I had a full-time job as a filmmaker after high school, which was great, but at the same time, it was nothing that cool. It was nothing like, "Oh, yeah, my dad was a, a label
Yeah,
exec or a
but
studio
that's the
exec,"
whole
like
thing of that it
yeah.
gets you in the door, but then you have to prove yourself and that everything you do from there is still your own.
Yeah. Yeah, so so I had you're right for sure. Like in terms of nepo baby stories, it wasn't like wasn't a real doozy of a one if that makes any sense. It was
Yeah,
just like
that's not absurd of, okay, you're being given like a high
yeah.
level production job or you're getting crazy preferential treatment. That's all right. You got referred in for, like you said, a base level filmmaking job at a nonprofit organization. And they were probably quite thankful to have someone referred in who they could have at least a baseline level of trust in. That the reason that quote unquote nepotism and referrals and whatnot happen is because people are on paper, just on paper. So if you can get a actual referral and someone say, hey, I can vouch for this person as working hard or being good, or at the very least that if they mess up, they'll answer to me and you can trust me, that is still a benefit to, the business, the individual, whatever.
For sure. Yeah, no, for sure. I don't want to undercut myself either. I made some stuff in my like late teens and early 20s that I think would probably still hold up. I yeah, like there's a reason I got into film festival when I was 15. I think that scarring experience has always made me not really want to talk myself up. That and like just other things that happen in life didn't make me really want to be like, oh yeah, super cool guy over here making films. Like it's much more the case that I'm just kind of wanting to be humble about stuff, but like at the same time, like it definitely wasn't that weird that I got hired for what that job was. Like ended up doing some pretty cool stuff at the job and making some stuff that like I'd never seen anybody else do before, and there's some stuff that I like still like kept from that job on my demo reel for like a really long time. Like it was yeah, to be completely fair to myself, like I was pretty talented young person at the time, and I
Yeah.
pushed that as far as I could. So yeah, definitely not a nepo baby in that respect. Just happily had like a couple connections that got me into doing film stuff. And honestly, the thing about that that's so special to me and so helpful is like I ended up getting like the education of a lifetime. So instead of having 4 years of college where I would have to study the theory of something, and then like depending on the college I went to, like maybe they'd let me use a camera from the beginning, or like for the last 2 years of college I
While
ended up
accumulating a great deal of debt.
yes. Oh, yeah, for sure. That was like another decision making point for me. Was my parents did something really interesting, which was like as they started learning more about like retirement and stuff, they brought me along for all of it. And between what I learned doing like a class with them, it was like this is like before online classes. Like I think it was like a DVD set, honestly. So between that and like another class I ended up having later in high school, like I learned so much about like debt and assets that I was just like, hey, this seems like a really bad idea. Cause like, like you have like a high school guidance counselor and they'll be like, hey, it's gonna be like 60 grand a year or something like more money than you've ever heard of in your life when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just doing the math. I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to pay that back. Like, not like, not that I couldn't, but just like that.
Yeah, but just you realize,
It's like this is dumb.
yeah, and that I'm very much of the opinion that there's certain fields of profession and study where an education at a good institution is vital and is right. That, if someone's going to go into the medical field, I sure hope they went to medical school. If
Right.
someone is going to be in architecture, I sure hope they went to a good architecture college. When it comes to the arts, when it comes to those types of things, whether it's something that is soft skills or that anything creative, frankly, that I think a class here and there can be valuable, especially when getting your hands on the basics. But at a point, just getting experience and getting skills and taking classes that might not be at a traditional 4-year institution are usually going to be better. That I was into acting a lot in high school, that I was involved with theater heavily all 4 years of high school, had a really good time, had some really good roles. And for a very, very short time, I considered, would I want to go into acting? And my parents said, if you want to go into acting, we will support you. But what we would do is we have, set aside this money for your college fund that, we've been saving up for basically since you were born. And that what we would basically not force you to do, but in every way, shape, and form recommend you to do, if acting is what you want to do, we will take this money, you will go to New York for 3 years, and that we will pay your expenses, we will pay for classes, we will pay for anything there, and that will be the purpose of what was your college fund. And that after 3 years, you'll have to support yourself, but that 3 years will be what was the purpose of the college education fund that we set aside for you, and we would rather you do that than get a theater degree at a 4-year college.
Yeah, and it probably would have been cheaper still, even for a city like New York. Like it probably would have been cheaper. I mean, that good on them for having that figured out. There was that wasn't really an option for me. There wasn't a college fund, so whatever I did, I would have to live with the consequences of. It's really funny because I hated school, but my brother loved it and ended up getting a full ride to the college he went to. So
hey, sometimes it works out.
Yeah,
and I didn't end up going with acting. That for me was just
I was going to ask,
too high stress. That the ultimate decision making thing for me was I didn't want the stress of having to continuously audition to have work. That if you're not an anomaly in theater, in acting, regardless of if it's stage acting or film, that most folks are going to be on that perpetual treadmill of, okay, I got a gig and now I'm auditioning and hoping I get another gig to support me. And just that lifestyle was one that I knew I didn't want. It was just not that level of stress, and the base assumption that I wasn't going to be the 1 in a million of I'm now getting jobs left, right, and center handed to me. That was the decision of I'd rather go into a couple other different areas that are a little bit more reliable.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you made the right call. I'm not sure what did you end up doing? What did you end up going for? Am I allowed to ask?
Yeah, so
you're Jake. So I've listened to your streams before. In a sense, you are more secretive than a VTuber because you don't even have a VTuber model. You just the voice of God, so to speak, from the corner. It's is he a corporeal being? Does he make his way upon the earth?
Crap, he's on to me.
We just
I actually
it's the celestial J.
I wound up going to school for marketing with the intention of getting into the gaming industry. I figured out through a couple things, just, fundraisers in high school or just helping advertise the clubs that I was in, that it was marketing and advertising and getting information out there to people, I'm kind of all right at that. And well, all companies need marketing. It doesn't matter if it's shampoo or whatever. And maybe marketing for the game industry is sort of the back door, because initially I wanted to be a developer myself.
We got it.
Yep. Oh, no, they got me.
It's shampoo. He works at a shampoo company.
Yep.
Get this man.
Yep. I took one coding class in high school because, I wanted to make games, or at least I thought I did. And after one coding class, I realized I did not, in fact, want to code games. I was below average, and just I consider myself pretty smart in a lot of ways, and coding just did not click with me. And so I was I still want to work in games, and what's the alternate angle? And marketing was the idea. And spoiler alert, I don't actually work in marketing in games, I'll say that much. But that's where the idea of getting into gaming from a different angle came from.
Okay. Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, there's any industry needs people in all shapes and sizes. If you want to work in the film industry and you're very bad at photography, they need accountants. There's something there. That's definitely a thing. You can just go do the books somewhere. or anything really. Like everybody needs HR. Everybody like at scale. Every organization has to function in the American system, or
Mhm.
even the international system. Like
Yeah.
whatever this business thing is that we've decided to do. Like every company has to kind of play the game. So there's way into any industry if you really think about it.
Yeah, and ultimately that sort of became the driving force for me. And in its own ways, marketing is that weird type of business where it's not accounting, it's not finance, where there's a couple laws of basic practices in terms of marketing, but otherwise it's actually one of the most creative and quote unquote artistic forms of business, really. And that it's difficult for schools to teach marketing because they can teach you core concepts and data analysis, market research, communications, but in reality, marketing is going to vary by industry and by company and by industry, and the whatever you're reading in your marketing textbook by nature is out of date because it's
Yeah.
going to take you like 2 years for trends to be researched and published in your book. And the way that marketing in particular works, because accounting, save for occasional law changes, finance, save for a couple different things, is going to be mostly consistent. Even managerial things, managerial strategies change over time. Marketing changes rapidly.
Yeah.
And it was just,
Oh yeah.
even reading stuff in my textbooks, I was like, this is no longer accurate. It would have been accurate 3 years ago, which check. Yeah, that fits based on the publication date, and this is still probably the newest published book on it. That it wasn't like we were given subpar material. It was just the nature of that very specific area. And I still learned a fair bit, but it was sort of that weird middle ground. But that's enough
Yeah.
about me.
There's no excuse for like just doing stuff. There's no substitute, I should say.
Yeah.
For doing a thing. It's like yeah, a lot of people I know who've done like film school, like they end up just doing a lot of book learning. I met a couple people honestly who have a film as like a literary degree, or like art film. I can't remember the name of the degree, like a film arts degree or something like that, which ended up being like a lot of analysis and watching films and like film criticism, but like didn't do any production stuff. And some of them just like they weren't really sure what to do, and they just stayed on that track, and they just like got that degree, and they still wanted to work in production.
But then you go to apply to places and they're like,
Yeah.
show me your resume, and
Or
you're
that demo reel.
awkwardly.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the other thing that was like kind of great. Like if anyone is self-possessed enough in high school to like start doing the thing that you think you probably want to do for the rest of your life or a good darn chunk of it, like just start doing it. Like all the high school stuff is made up. Like it's all made up.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
all fake.
Yeah.
Like there's some times I got bad grades because I was editing something, and I was like, and looking back, it was like, heck
Worth
yeah,
it.
dude. Like heck yeah to that semester where you got a C in English because you were like staying up a lot, like or
Yeah,
like
it
missing a lot of
just-
class to like
Mm.
film stuff. Like I definitely missed some class to like work on some projects, which like was okay with my parents, which was amazing.
The thing that I tell folks who are younger is consider your goals and what is going to get you to your goals. That if your goal is to go to Harvard because you love law, then yes, you're going to want to put your all into your schoolwork because for better or worse, Harvard is going to look at your grades a bit more in that regard. If you're looking at filmmaking, do filmmaking stuff in your free time, and like you said, don't necessarily stress out if there's a bad grade here or there. Make sure that you don't fail out. You do want to be proficient. That school has value. Don't get me wrong. That you make sure there's important basics that you learn in your English class, in your social studies class. You might not need to know the full literary functions of Macbeth, but at least know how to dissect a piece of written media. That's going to do you
Yeah.
well.
I mean, writing's cool. Writing's probably like the most like the biggest skill multiplier, or like biggest factor I think for anybody. Like if you can express yourself well in text, that's a big deal. Even in the
Mhm.
age of like ChatGPT and stuff, like people can tell when you actually know how to assemble thoughts together and write something. I mean, for me, like when I'm making videos as Woody Devs on my YouTube channel, like that's the first stage. Not the first stage, honestly. Usually, there's no first stage.
Script writing is important, and being able to communicate
Yeah,
and have your thoughts be at least marginally eloquent is going to
right.
be much better than a content creator who is not necessarily as eloquent.
Yeah, and it'll just save you time too, because like one of the biggest life skills, like I feel like there is like communicating clearly up front about what's going down ahead of time, because afterwards, like you're playing catch up for anything, and like who knows what decisions get made that like stem from that poor communication ahead of time if you haven't done a good job. Like
Hmm.
you spend the rest of the time trying to like fix things versus like just allowing things to take their natural solution, which is it's pretty big deal. I wish I like gosh, I feel like I'm like venturing into self-help guru mode. Can you get me out of
Yeah,
this rut?
sure.
It's like I'm gonna
The
like start telling people like make their bed or something. You know what I'm talking about? Like I'm gonna like
make your bed,
tell
chat.
like you got to be able to tie your shoes. Like I don't know. Wait, that's not a thing. That's everybody does that. Never mind.
uh,
It just
oh,
seems like such a basic like self-help gurus are like their whole thing is like, oh yeah,
uh,
yeah, like do this really basic thing. It's like you got to start making yourselves sandwiches in the morning or something like that. Like make your bed. Like you got to brush your teeth, young man. It's just make your bed. I'm
yeah,
making the
just
rest of this up.
I guess looping back to filmmaking and cinematography and all that, is there any particular element that really appealed to you, or that even to this day that is sort of where you might find yourself going in terms of just uh, what really gets you excited, I suppose?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So like career took twists and turns. So like that like kind of dovetails with the history a little bit. Is like I when I first got into cinematography, like the thing that was most compelling to me is like making images that I hadn't really seen before. Like I really wanted to invent cinematically. Like I had some mentors at the time. That was another key thing for me getting like the, you know, placed well out of high school was like I met some people at this was not nepo baby stuff for the most part. Just like happened to be in the right place in the right time, and met some people who ended up being pretty influential in my career. Some filmmakers who I really admired and looked up to, who worked at a similar institution that I did, who had a little bit of a bigger platform. Gosh, should I just say it? Gosh, Jay, at some point, there's a little truth bomb that I might need to get out on your show that I
I
don't think
mean,
I've talked
it is
publicly
all up
about
to you.
before.
I always want the guest to be comfortable. I am never going to push for anything that, is private. Uh, your choice entirely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You want the tea, buddy? You want some like. All right. It's probably gonna only be any good if I just like say what actually happened. So like the first, I said like I worked at a nonprofit when I first started in my career, and I worked at specifically the nonprofit institution I worked at, evangelical megachurch. Um, so I worked at two of them while most of the rest of my friends were still in college. I had two full-time jobs working at mega churches. That's significant for a couple of reasons, because like you asked me specifically what I was interested in about that situation. um and like I definitely had some like personal conviction, belief, reasons for like wanting to be doing that job, things that I don't really have now, like reasons that I just kind of irrelevant to my life now. But like,
Hmm.
um, I did a bunch of different projects in like a lot of different places. Like I ended up, like I would get shipped out to like I went to Haiti to like film like a relief effort or something like that. And I saw some stuff. I would be doing a lot of different kinds of projects. The best, the reason it was a great film school is because I would be making a video that would be going into a live show for people at least every 2 weeks for years of my life. Like by the time most of my friends graduated, I had probably made over 200 films.
Holy
Just like
cow.
yeah, just and like that's and that was just work, like not necessarily the side stuff, because I would also work on side projects and things for other people and still do freelance and other stuff. And um yeah, but that was an interesting way into it. The mentors I met were also people who worked at a mega church. And it was a complicated part of my life, because those like honestly those if you look at the news, like those institutions are not healthy places. Like you see the headlines about the leadership and like the stuff that happens there, and like having worked in those rooms and those spaces, like they're not a great place to be, at least not as like a working professional anyway. um yeah, like I dealt with like pretty significant like workplace like gaslighting and emotional abuse at my second job. Had to like go to therapy about it, honestly, because it just kind of kept getting in my way too much. And yeah, so that was like a that's the early days, was like it was like a lot of passion for doing cinematography, but also like a lot of sort of like religious conviction. I probably would be most easily typed like agnostic now. I haven't talked about this too much in like my content work, because most of the stuff I make is like, you know, either about like making movies in Unreal Engine or making games in Unreal Engine, and it
Ends up
doesn't.
not being terribly relevant nowadays, but it's still, that is a very formative experience. And, I'm glad that you were able to gain the benefits for what it was, and that you were also able to recognize where and when things became unhealthy.
Yeah, yeah, it was weird. Like I honestly, I feel like kind of lucky that like nothing very pointedly traumatizing happened to me in specific. Like they had mostly social situations and uncomfortable workplace positions. Um, I don't think the vibe of the show is to like get into all of that or what that was, but like yeah, I got asked to do things that like I thought were unethical at the time, and like um what like got put in positions that like no young person should find themselves in professionally ever. um just a lot of really not okay stuff. So now it's like it's kind of like markedly different for a couple of reasons. So like you asked me like what was interesting about filmmaking, and like um cinematic creation's huge. Having a purpose for what I was doing was like also a big deal. um and that was big, but eventually I was like, okay, like I just kind of want to do the filmmaking to like kind of want to just be an independent like cinematographer. Like that was the
Mhm.
next thing that happened. It was like I was doing everything at these churches, and like I was doing everything from writing to interviewing people to doing visual effects. At both of them I was like the only person who knew how to use After Effects, so I was like the VFX guy or like the motion graphics guy, depending on what they wanted to do that week. And that stuff, like it's like kind of how content creators work now. So like like now I've put out a ton of content, but it's like it's all my content. And that was totally the vibe then. Was like, okay, we gotta move a lot of video here. Like we're like trapped. Like we gotta like we gotta like move this product. We gotta get this out of here. And so like that was an interesting thing, because I actually kind of really liked the crunch of it in a weird way. Like I liked being busy and working on all those things. Like that's one
See,
thing
I
I
never thought of that type of work environment as being something that, comparing to active content creation, of
yeah.
just, something where you are having that perpetual output of work and content. And just, it's kind of fascinating in its own way that, obviously there were the ups and downs there, but, first off, don't worry about this, quote unquote, not being the vibe of the show. That the vibe of the show is the guest, and that this is a really fascinating area of one, just the overlap of filmmaking with content creation in general, but then also as it relates to you, because you're the star of the show here, Woody. So don't worry, if it's about you, it's on topic. And I do appreciate you being open to sharing this little bit about yourself. That's it's a very unique and just a that type of background is obviously very formative for you. And even if, over time you realized, okay, things might not be the healthiest here, that you recognize that and you were able to get out of that unideal situation, and that you were still able to actually carry some positive experiences and elements from it. So, obviously, you never hope that someone ends up in a bad position like that to begin with, but it sounds like you made the most of it, and that's still good.
Yeah. Yeah. Life's complicated. Like, there were things that were really good about some of the situations and bad. Like that's a thought I keep having lately, especially with all the interesting new technology stuff, and like, whatever weird thing Elon's doing this week, is like multiple things are always true at the same time, right? Like I had like formative experiences that were both good and bad. Like I had experiences that were traumatizing in early years, and put in terrible situations, and also like I got some pretty solid filmmaking chops. So yeah, it's kind of like a yeah, yeah, like a lot of stuff traces back to then. Do you want me to? Can I take this forward a little bit? Like,
Yeah,
can we talk
please.
about how we got to now?
Mm.
So like I wanted to, I was doing all of this stuff, and I was definitely overwhelmed and burned out without necessarily knowing it at the time. But the thing I wanted to do the most was just cinematography. Like I just wanted to be, for those who don't know, like a cinematographer, the person or the director of photography is the person who's responsible for all of the lighting and camera work that happens in movies. And I don't know if I had like a grand vision for that, but like you know, I like trying to think like how much of it like how much window dressing to do in terms of like my actual real life, but like I ended up kind of following that lead and eventually ended up taking a staff position somewhere as a cinematographer, and it was there for a while, and then eventually I was there when COVID happened. At the same time, I was also experimenting with Blender a bunch and doing like a bunch of 3D modeling on the side because it turns out that that's actually very hard when you're you grow up doing all sorts of different kinds of art forms, and you like you go work at a job that needs you to like wear 5 hats, that it's kind of difficult to actually just like go do one thing. Like I did end up getting a job doing the thing, but like at the same time I was also like doing all these other experiments on the side, and people at work knew that I was into using Blender. Blender, fabulous 3D software, which I feel like is ubiquitous now. That probably doesn't need much explanation. But the Blender's great. Go download it. It doesn't matter if you want to learn it or not. Just download it. It makes them happy. And so like I was doing all this stuff with it, and like COVID shut everything down, and the company was doing fine, and then they they said, "Hey, Woody, we know you're really into this stuff. Can we ship you a computer? Do you want to figure out how to use Unreal Engine for virtual production?" And I was like, yeah, definitely. And it wasn't like, what's virtual production either. I was like, yes, like I'm so in. Like virtual production for conventionally, people don't know it. It's like also called in-camera visual effects. Is the idea that we're gonna like take a game engine to be able to provide real-time visual effects for films. So it was sort of a question of like, okay, how could we do this? So they shipped me a Vive kit for tracking, and also a computer, and it was just like, hey, knock yourself out. And they didn't really care if I came up with anything or not. And like one of the things that we were looking into is like all of these real-time 3D CG characters too, kind of before it would like VTubers were as like well-known or zeitgeisty as they are now. So it was like, suddenly that puts us in this experience of like, okay, there's this. And I just like, like looking into Unreal Engine was like looking into the sun. No, looking into the void. Like looking into a pinata, and then
And seeing the explosion.
right, and just being like, whoa, this is so cool. No, I want to do this now. So I ended up quitting that job because I got a little too good at it too quickly. And like,
Oops.
I got hired on to be a cinematographer, and I was like, okay. Like I'd made something that I'm not allowed to talk about at the, like
Yay,
I think like,
NDAs.
Yeah, NDAs. And like one of the head editors, because there was like a lot of post people who worked at that company. Head editor was like, "Hey, this thing you made, this looks really good. Like we could probably like, it looks like you could put this in the Super Bowl. This looks amazing." And I was like, I'm not getting paid enough. But the I just like kind of like wrap things up nicely and neatly, and handed them back the computer with everything on it and stuff. I at the also while I was working there, got to participate in an Unreal Engine challenge through Epic Games, through like a select
Ooh.
cohort of people online. I got invited to this little challenge thing. I have a video about it actually, if anyone's curious. But the yeah, it was just kind of like, oh man, it was such a big nudge. It was like something I wanted to do really badly, and like, so I'm still a filmmaker to an extent. It's not Woody Films, it's Woody Devs. So it's like I'm thinking a little bit more about the interactive side of things and the programming side of things now. But the like I still think of myself as a filmmaker, but like I'm sort of like a filmmaker who's trying to make things in a in a game engine. I'm gonna do something gimmicky. I'm gonna oop, doop.
Yeah, that you're still able to.
Doop, 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 doop. There we go. Camera cuts. It's a film.
You
for film
mentioned the
now.
concept of while historically speaking, filmmaking and development are not necessarily interconnected, that you expect it to become much more commonplace. And
Oh,
I think that's something that is
I don't
very
think
true
that's
as well.
true. I
Oh,
don't think that's true. Like, one of the piece of trivia that I think is like wild and amazing is that the current like chief technical officer at Epic Games is like the person who rigged up the bullet time effect in the Matrix movie. There's like the visual effects
huh.
supervisor from that movie. Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, there's like really strong connection between like the people who worked in the Matrix movies and like people at Epic Games. Like when they did that, I don't know if you saw the Unreal Engine like 5 live uh, um, VR, not VR, just a Matrix test thing, um,
That
and
would
that
explain the
yeah, they're
concept.
able to like strike up a really good collaboration because like some old friends in mutual places were able to work together on that, and it's the coolest. It's a cool tech demo. It still holds up really well, I think, from like a year or two ago. It may have even just been like a year ago, but the when Unreal Engine 5 came out, it was like, hey, check this out, and they put out this really cool Matrix demo. There's Neo in it, and there's like a digital Keanu Reeves and a digital Carrie-Anne Moss, like super cool. Um, but like, yeah, it's like we can make movies inside game engines now. That's totally a thing. Like, um, the only reason I don't like, have like a very like photorealistic implementation of Unreal Engine is because like it's hard to keep up that sense of realism, even with tools like as good as Unreal that are like and getting better. Um, but like, I want the chance to be able to, spend my time like making films inside the game engine, and that's like kind of the reason that I'm a VTuber on this show, Vtuber Talks. Is like that was my in point to all this. Is like, oh man, like this is like a totally different space, like a totally different thing, and there's no rules here. Like we can do whatever we want, even though I'm just like very boringly like have camera cuts. I have a lot of other stuff in my VTuber set that like completely defies the laws of physics, but it's like you know it's looking into the pinata, like I said, it's just a very cool medium, and I still feel like people haven't figured it out. Like
Oh,
there's
yes.
still so much to explore with it. Currently, everybody's distracted because of AI stuff, and it's like, cool. I'm gonna keep spending time. I'm gonna learn something about like whatever's going on with AI as well, but like also like still gonna keep working on the stuff that I'm doing, you know, in this space. So like to me, it just kind of like I just keep like kind of stacking hats. If that makes sense, like so
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
a
I identify with that.
yeah, because like like you're a theater kid who like was like figured out you could go into marketing. Like for me, it's like okay, like I'm a as a kid, like making games and sending them out on flash drives because I'm like the supplier because people can't like go to Miniclip on the school computers or something. The so like now it's like I started opening Unreal Engine. It's like, oh yeah, like I remember how to program things. Like I coded as a kid. Like I've written code before. Like this is doable. Like sure, yeah, easy. It's like, oh, it's like it's got a it's a visual coding system. Like this seems pretty intuitive. Like whoa. And I like forgot that I knew how to code, and like just like within like a couple years it was like, oh wow, this is like super this clicks. It just like makes my brain happy. Um yeah, so like overwhelmingly like I'm sorry, I'm looking back on it now, and it's just a very cool trajectory to be on. Like I'm very thankful to be where I am now and doing the work I'm doing, and thankful for all the stuff that got me this far too. It's kind of cool. I haven't
I
really thought
usually
about that.
I usually avoid asking people how they got into VTubing because I feel like a lot of other talk shows do that question. A lot of them do it well, but I feel like there is particular relevance here. So I'm going to frame the question. You mentioned that, you got given this computer and were told to just experiment in Unreal. At what point in time did you first become aware of VTubers? Where in this sequence of events did the knowledge of, oh,
Oh yeah.
people do content creation specifically with avatars? Where did you first encounter that?
Well, I was interested in building myself an avatar because I thought it would be cool to be like myself in 3D.
Yeah,
But
you
like,
became an accidental VTuber.
yeah, like I didn't know really that that was a thing until I looked it up. Like I typed it into YouTube. Like I don't know if I like streaming with an avatar or something like that. I looked into it, and it was like, oh, this is kind of a thing. It seems like a little bit fringe, like a little bit very anime. Okay, it was like wasn't until like a while later that I like ran into other VTubers who were like, you know, of all different kinds of styles. But but yeah, it was just like kind of I kind of like discovered it as I was discovering how to do it.
Do you remember approximately what year this was?
Um,
I just asked because the history of VTubing is surprisingly short. That
yeah,
we have had a very expedited timeline, and one thing that I've said many, many times on this show is that we are still in the wild west of VTubing. It feels
right.
like it's been around for a long time, and that we have come so far. And to be fair, we have come a long way, but there is so much more that can be done, and so many things that we can't even imagine right now. That 2 years
I
ago we
mean,
can't imagine what we have today, and we
Jay,
can't imagine today what's going to be in 2 years.
I can imagine a few of them. Jay, just gonna say
That's fair. Of all people, you might be able to imagine more than the average person.
that. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of really cool people who are working on some really cool stuff, and I've seen some other like people just like pushing the boundaries that are just making really neat stuff with VTuber tech. Is out there. Um, yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, I don't know what year. I'm trying to think. It was like it wasn't like early. You know what I mean? It wasn't like 2017. Um, it wasn't that. It wasn't like anything like that. And at the time, I don't know if I would have. At that time, I don't even know if I would have been like into it. Um, yeah, it wasn't. I was probably like just in time, I should say. I guess.
Yeah,
I would say that that's actually probably like a question I would hope most people don't ask themselves too much, because like I feel like there are people I know who are like kind of wondering if they should still do it. And it's like, yeah, like
oh
you want to
no,
be a
I
VTuber, like
never.
go for it.
Yeah,
Like don't worry about it
no,
if you're late.
I asked the question more from an academic standpoint of just of sort of getting a picture of where the broader community is at that point in time while you're out there discovering it sort of tangentially. That I just find it sort of an interesting thing to see sort of
Yeah.
historically. All right, where were people at different points in time? But you're right that the some people look at the VTuber community right now and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so saturated. There's so many VTubers. It's too late to get in." Far from it. We're still in
I
the early
mean,
days, folks. That
there's
if you get in now, you're still on the ground floor. It might not look like it. This is still the ground floor.
yeah, I think like it's like if you want to do something that like nobody's freaking done before, like there's a lot of room for that. Like I don't know any other VTubers who look tremendously like me. And there's one person in my community who like their character is really cool, and they're like they are a character artist, and like also got into Unreal Engine through you know, finding a lot of the resources online. And I love seeing their stuff because they make like really neat stuff. But like their character's like tangentially stylistically kind of like me, which is cool. That's shout out to Fruitsy Collins in my Discord and abroad on Twitter and the Twitch and the world beyond. But the yeah yeah, so that's how we got here. I feel like it took a long time to get here in terms
No.
of in this conversation. I don't know.
No, it was it's a journey that got you here, and so it was a journey of a conversation. But that it's so cool to hear because, like I said, your experiences are somewhat unique in the VTuber space, and that you're working with a lot of technology and stuff that not everybody is working with, and that the combination of skills comes from that combination of experiences, which is going to be unique. So, you know, genuinely, thank you for going on that journey for me. That it might have felt like it was a long time, but I think that was a journey
Oh, I just
well
mean
worth
that I'm
taking.
long-winded, Jay. Like
Oh,
it was not like oh, this is bad content. It was just
it's a
like, oh
talk show,
man,
Woody. You're
this
talking.
dude
That means
talk.
you're doing
Yeah,
it right.
that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, that's interesting. Like I think that's like something I like. Gosh, it's like watch me turn you into my therapist. Like the like growing up, like I grew up around a lot of extroverted people. Like now, I don't even really know whether I'm like an introvert or an extrovert. Like I feel like there's a lot of both energies going on in my life. Um, but I definitely grew up around a lot of people who talk too much, and then like would tell each other they talk too much.
Mm.
uh,
So
oh
more
gosh.
recently, though, now that you're sort of transitioning into the more development space after being in the primary filmmaking space, uh, so you're now getting sort of back into games, which, as we find out, isn't getting back into, not your first foray into it, since you
Yeah.
started much, much earlier. What was your first game getting back into it?
Okay, interesting. So like my first Unreal Engine game, it's kind of like getting back
Or even
into
just
it.
Unreal Engine, like semi-gamified project, even if
I
it's
did
not a
like a
full-fledged game.
I did GMTK, the Game Maker's Toolkit game jam. I did that in summer of 2021, I think. And it was just like a really simple little game. And I didn't really make any content about it or like post anything about it. It was it's just like sort of an experiment. The first like formal thing I did was I made a game called To Do Dungeon that
Ah, yes.
was like kind of like gosh, wow, it was like sort of a trial by fire. To Do Dungeon is an RPG visualizer game. It's an autonomous RPG. You don't directly interface with it. The way you interface with it is by filling out a form at the end of the day that where you self-report how much of your to-do list you completed, and then when you're like, you know, when you and everyone else who's on your team is finished filling out your to-do form, Unreal Engine can generate a video that shows everybody's like day visualized as an RPG. So let's say that like you wanted to get like 5 things done and you got 4 of them done. That turns into like, uh, you know, 4 sword swings against an enemy, but then the enemy is going to take 1 swing at you for the one that you've missed. And like maybe you get lucky and there's some RNG elements where you like dodge or something like that, or maybe you take damage. So that's like it was a game I made that I played with several other VTubers early last year. And it was kind of crazy because like I just kind of just threw myself in and I was just like, I'm making RPG. Turns out, even for a limited RPG like that, still a lot of RPG elements, and like way too much content. Like I built way too much content for it. There was like a whole story campaign. Like there was like a setting with like a party, and like you have to go like, I think it's a goblin and his girlfriend or something like that, who's like taken over the some sort of mines. Oh yeah, the dopa
Oh, yeah, the
mines.
dopamines. Yes. Yeah.
So that was like my first like big thing. I had been making a lot of YouTube content already before I did that, where like trying to document what I already knew and make tutorials about how to make, you know, Unreal Engine VTubers. If you want to know how I do what I do, like I leave a lot of breadcrumbs. I leave a lot of that out there. So that all exists in my body of work. But that was the first time I was like, you know what? Like I want to make a video about a cool project that I made. And I want to make a project, and which is something I'm kind of, you know, always kind of reading a balance of now, is like how much do I post just tech content and how much do I post like what I'm creatively doing with the tech content, because I feel like there's not a lot of creators that do both. It's actually very difficult to do a lot of tutorials and a lot of your own creative work. It's very tricky. But yeah, so the first you had asked me. Sorry, I have terrible ADHD, so
No,
like
that
I'm
was
trying to
answering the
anchor
question. I
myself.
asked what was the first game
Yeah,
back, and that was it, and that was a good
I'm
explanation of it.
trying to anchor myself on your questions here.
You actually did, like you mentioned, a video on that. I did see that video, and it's interesting because one, in a way, I almost wonder that the game itself, making it, becomes its own to-do list, and then it's the question of, is that then distracting from the
Yes.
other to-do list?
Yes.
But then once it's made, it ends up being this really cool tool, and that not only is it something that for you personally that it makes you want to do things to be able to progress in the game, but the fact that you made it a party-based system bakes in that little bit of social pressure of, you mentioned in the video saying, you were talking to somebody and saying, all right, I need to go do this thing because I don't want the party member to die. That's
Yep.
not even your character. That there's that pressure of, okay, I need to make sure that I'm keeping up so everybody else in the party doesn't suffer. And that even if the character dies, that obviously you're not having real life consequences, but it then bakes in what is just that small little healthy bit of pressure, which for some people can be really, really motivating. That some people are motivated by deadlines, and that even if they know they don't need a deadline, they'll give themselves one because they know that it will help motivate them and get them working. And that the to-do RPG game is able to actually sort of act as that, and then also just have this very fun little system built into it.
Yeah, totally. So, but I will tell you that I did burn out hard from that.
Oh
So
no.
yes, like you can use the game to build the game. One thing I did not do very well with that game was set it up for automation. It was something I kind of looked into later, which is something like if I had to do it all again now, I think I would probably have to rebuild the game. Um, I'm not, I don't know. It was something that was like at one point, like it was like, oh, this could be its own company. There have been other really good apps that like gamify productivity. There's probably even more now. Like there's some that were definitely influences, but I had never seen one done in 3D that like would run, with the idea being like through Discord or something like that. Um, and yeah, so it's like it was at one point a very tantalizing idea of like, okay, like I could probably sell this to companies like HR departments or something to like, like create like an internal productivity tool or something.
Mm.
But like, I don't know, that wasn't like the idea, right? The idea is to like keep making films and games in Unreal Engine. So, that's like seemed like its own thing. I I built all of the content like day to day in the game. So like there were times I would build like a level in a day so that like, or like in a, even in like 2 hours so that I could like have the party advance, like kind of like digitally game mastering the whole experience,
Mm-mm.
which burned me out a ton because I would just be like trying to make more content to keep the work compelling for everybody. I ended up like making the video, and then I did a beta test with my Discord server, and there were like 16 people or something who did it, and that was honestly when I really learned a lot about the game because well, some people were like interested in signing up, like the science of like how to get people to get involved with a project and stick with that project and like adhere to something is interesting to me.
Mm.
Because that I learned way more about the game with like actual use, and like we weren't trying to make a video about it. And I was like still doing a bunch of work manually to make things happen. At one point, shout out to my friend Audrey who's helping me maybe build like a Discord bot that could like automate some of it. And it was a really cool idea, but the I don't know, I just like it would like the idea was to make myself more productive, but I was making myself more productive to make the game. Like the productivity that I was expending every day partially was going into like building this game and making it better and better, and then I would just be like freaking tired afterwards and not wanting to do anything else. And like the game was like a 2-week session, and I at the end of them I was just like, I can't keep working on this. I'm so I'm
You did
unbelievably
the thing,
mad.
but it wound up being a little bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, like it worked too well just in the wrong direction. Like it just became this like Sisyphean exercise. Like like it was like just rolling, like expending all this productivity to make the game that makes the productivity, like rolling the boulder up the hill to have it fall back
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Still, for a productivity tool, that is what has to happen for the creation of the productivity tool. And the concept at play is that, okay, after putting in this initial effort, that then ideally it's something that is able to be self-perpetuating. And you mentioned that the design there might not quite have landed in that sense because it was requiring you to have a lot more continuous upkeep on it. But
Yeah.
that, conceptually, the idea of a program like that understandably demands that upfront cost, as it were.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I don't know, maybe I could go back to it now and it would be fine. And I could just like, use what content I made to just like throw together something, and I just like figure out how to put it on Rails and like get it on a server or something. It was like area of inquiry. I don't know. Like a lot of my projects, like I don't tend to close the door on them too harshly. Who knows? Maybe we'll do more to do dungeons someday. There are a bunch of OGs who like have the server role in my Discord from when we did the beta test. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the one status item that you can get in my community is like, I don't know, just like, yeah, like it was cool to have real people do it and go through it with community members and stuff. That was super
And if
cool.
you're interested in joining Woody's Discord server, the link for that is going to be down in the channel description if you're watching live on Twitch, and it'll be in the video description if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, delightful. Yeah. Yeah. Get there and come make cool stuff and come show it to us.
Yeah.
It's a very pro show off your projects Discord. Like, I love seeing the stuff that people make in there. Like, makes me happy. There's some people who like post in there, like, once every 2 days or something, just like always keeping it alive. And man, so it's super cool. And like, also it, selfishly, it connects me to a world of other really talented people, like Mega Mocap, who's in the chat, who has done some of the projects I've done, but like done them at an even higher level. And just it makes me so happy to know people like that. You've had some talented people, friends of mine, on the show too. Like, you've had Steez on, you've had Akami, who've like taken their own forays into Unreal Engine.
Steez has an unveiling, sort of a debut in a sense, later this week, and it's not for a model, it's for his Unreal 3D world that he's been posting updates on kind of regularly. And he was talking about it when he was on the show, which is several months back now. And
he's been working
it's
on
been
that a long
super
time.
cool. Yeah, just seeing him get that progress, and that he's going to be doing an unveiling, I think on the 4th, possibly the 5th. But bottom line is, real soon. So being able to see those types of worlds really actually take flight, because I think that's one of the areas that we're going to see in the coming years for VTubing at large, that I think this is going to be sort of a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I wish that didn't make me like. I wish I didn't have. I do have like a little bit of a competitive streak, and I think in a good way in the situation. But like, it's like the homies are building worlds, and it's like, whoa! I just got this little office here. Like, I gotta make more sets and more environments and stuff. Like, I really gotta get it together. And then I also have to get over the fact that I like probably can't do that at scale and model it all myself. Like, I did most of the 3D modeling in this scene. It's yeah, so like, and I think we all push each other to be better, which is really cool. Yeah, it's been really neat to see some of that stuff. It's also been really cool to be able to share my knowledge and like see some of those people like be able to be a little faster and like not trip as much as I did. Like, when they start doing their setups and stuff, I can just be like, they're like, hey, how do you do this? And I'm just like, hey, look, I made a video about it. Just like, here you go.
Make it so they don't have to reinvent the wheel of just being able to avoid those early stumbling blocks. That the amount of time and frustration that can save is immeasurable.
Right. Yeah. Where like I wasn't as early to doing this stuff as like CodeMiko was. And it's like, so like, there's someone who like got in early, built an enormous following for themselves, and like, is building an app, and it's like, heck yeah, it's awesome. Like, more power to you. Like, make a cool VTuber app. That's great. But it's also like, at the time, it was like, nobody has a tutorial on how to set this up from scratch in Unreal Engine. It's like, so-and-so has a tutorial, but it's like how to use BC Face in Unreal Engine. It's like, I want to build something from scratch in Unreal Engine. I don't want to use other programs. I want to like build my own VTuber app, basically. Like, how do we do that? Okay, we're gonna need to be able to, like have a face. We're gonna, maybe some hand tracking or something. Actually, Jay, that's like something I feel like that's the most flack I've caught on the internet so far, is like I teased a part 2 of a hand tracking tutorial that I'm like kind of not sure I can deliver. And this was like a long time ago. And like in the video, I'm like, well, let me know in the comments if you want a part 2. It's like, oh, I'm an idiot. It was like later on, Steez and I actually got on his stream, and we were trying to do like a live tutorial, and I was trying to set up his character using an Ultra Leap, which is what I use for, or a Leap Motion device, which I use for hand tracking. And like, I was trying to set up his character with it, and it wasn't going well. Like, there was like a good like 30 minutes after when we should have stopped streaming, and I think when he wanted to stop streaming, where I was like, wait, I have one more idea. Let me just try this. And like, it's like a lot of things that didn't work right. So like, I don't think confidently like I could like make a one-size-fits-all tutorial for like how to do what I did to set up hand tracking in my scene. Yeah, Mega was there. It was the debugging death spiral. It was God. Yeah, it was rough. So yeah, we're still like so actually someone told me that from part 1 they were able to figure it out, which is really great. But yeah, that's like the worst thing I've done online, is like kind of like, I'm like, yeah guys, well, like, because the tutorial like probably gives them enough data like to do hands but maybe not fingers. And yeah, and I just like I don't think I can follow it up. I need to make a video where I like explain that I can't make a video.
No, that becomes content in its own right of, all right,
Yeah.
here's what we learned, here's what went wrong, and here's why, at least at this point in time with the knowledge base that I have, I'm not able to do this thing. And that it's not that you
Yeah.
dropped or that you were trying to trick people. It was you ran into a problem that is very common and real for developers, regardless of if it's for this type of technology or for really any type of technology, that you think of a concept and you think, all right, logically, based on what I have, I should be able to scale it to this thing. And then you realize that there's some variable that you didn't account for because that type of thing just hasn't been done before.
Yeah, and that's actually I think the thing I was like, that's the through line, right? Like, so we were talking about cinematography. Is like what I was really passionate about was like, okay, I've seen these kinds of shots before. It's like, can I make it a different color? Like, could I, can I shoot this in a way I haven't seen anyone shoot this before? And just like trying a bunch of experiments. And now I feel like I'm more than ever able to like sit in a place where it's like, okay, well, this really probably hasn't been done before. Like, I'm not sure. I made a VR game where people in my chat can spawn in as death bots that are like flying around trying to kill me, and I can like, and it's like a procedurally generated world.
Oh, you're
And
beating me to the punch on this one. I was going to get to that.
and it's like, I don't think anybody's done that. Like everybody's, like someone's always done something before you. It's not like you're
Simpsons
hardly
did it.
ever really original. Yeah, Simpsons probably did it. But like, I don't know, like I'd never seen it. So like, and that's half the fun of it too. It's like, I never saw anybody do that. So like, cool, let's get to it. Yeah, so so I made that game too.
Now, to what degree did the to-do RPG impact the chat RPG? Because I feel like that's probably the most similar of the different projects in terms of just sort of continuity.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. That's a really good question. Jay, I'm going to be lazy for a second. Can you explain what the chat RPG is for anyone who's watching who's unfamiliar?
So I watched a video and I'm hoping that I'm not remembering incorrectly, but basically the
No,
chat
this is
RPG...
great. This is great. This is like a measurement of my ability to like communicate effectively in the videos. Like this is like this is awesome. Like
I'm sure
this.
it was very clear in the video. It said I've had a busy day and I watched all those videos a bit earlier today, so it might just be my memory. But that it was the ability for folks in chat to help make a character, but then also just interact with the world, that you had them go on this quest line. I distinctly remember that at one point they encountered a bear, or it was some type of hybrid bear, and chat collectively decided to pet the bear.
Yeah, it was an owl bear. So, yeah, honestly, there's not really a good name for this project yet. It's one of the few projects that I'm like sort of actively currently working on. So the original idea was I wanted to be able to play D&D with people in my stream. Currently, the game does not support D&D anymore. If you follow the tabletop world, there were some shakeups.
That was
year.
A fun thing a couple months ago. Unfortunately, we got our relative happy ending there without having to get into too much stuff. But yes, I was paying attention to that.
I mean, I don't know if you like were paying attention last week. There's still weird stuff going on. I don't really want to get into all of that. As, if you know, you know. But the tabletop world has its complications. So I built a game basically to let me play a tabletop RPG with my chat and let me be the game master. So, and I built it in a week. Most of the projects I build is like I give myself about like a week or 2 weeks to get it done. And there is some crossover actually between the two RPGs that I built, because building an RPG, like, there's a bunch of stuff you got to do every time, the same way, and it's, kills you, and you're like, okay, I got to write another one of these functions or scripts or whatever. But very much that project was about like, okay, I want to take, because in real life I am the game master, like I play with friends, and or at least I used to before I was doing this much coding, like I was like, okay, well, it'd be super cool if the streamer could just be the GM and everyone in chat could like use like chat commands in chat in the sidebar and just like type things in and then like roll their own dice and like make like skill checks and things like that, like roll a digital d20, and that's a real game that I've been working on. I don't have like any like the plan is currently, you know what, there's no plans. Like one of the thing, an idea I'm holding loosely is like I would really love to release that sometime as like a tool. There's a lot in between me and like getting there, so I don't know if that'll happen. Not advertising that, but like I'm still working on this game. I'm still developing it and trying to give it a shot. But the game, the idea would be to eventually have a game that streamers could use and set up their own games with their own chat and stuff.
Yeah,
Current,
just
currently,
something that they can have as a sort of a plugin, and that there will be different variables that they can set, and that they can sort of run their own campaigns, but that it is essentially a toolkit.
yeah. So yeah, and currently, like when I'm running a lot of these games, I'm just running them out of Unreal Engine because like I could just as a preview instead of like building and then testing it on a bunch of different machines and seeing like whose computers work and like the entire process of getting these things out. A lot of times like I'm just trying to get like a proof of concept together and like put it out there. But it's like it feels a little selfish because like I end up making these games that I like rather enjoy playing myself. Like I've made some games where I'm like I would like to see that, and and then I make it. I'm like, actually, that it was pretty much as cool as I thought it was going to be. That's pretty cool. I'm happy with this. Where are we going with this?
But of just the influence from To Do RPG and how
I
that
lost
ended
myself.
up. No, you're good. Of just To Do RPG and how it either influenced or gave you the building blocks for the things that you built in that other game.
Yeah, I mean, if you're learning how to make games, like I had never made an like a proper RPG before, I think in my life. Maybe little RPG likes or like, elements. But doing this, like doing the first game was kind of like, like a game development decathlon of sorts. Like it was hard to do and I struggled with it. It was difficult. If you set out to program a game and you build an RPG from scratch or close to, in a game engine, like that'll challenge you, and you'll find afterwards that like a lot of other things are much easier to do after. Like that's like one of the, I would say, like just kind of like sink your teeth in, build something. If you build an RPG, you'll go far, and afterwards a lot of things will seem simpler because RPGs have like a lot of extremely demanding programming setups, like especially if it's like turn-based combat, you have to build like a loop where you go through an ordered list of whose turn it is, and then those players are gonna get their attack in, and then like specifically with To Do Dungeon, that was like a big part of it. It was like it was all automated, so very hard to figure that one out. Figure out like who is attacking who and why. Like, why does the AI want to attack so and so but not so and so? Just really tricky stuff. So like, if you can go in and solve all of those problems, it's kind of like all downhill from there, I guess. Like that project being complicated enough, it like helped build my confidence to do a lot of other projects.
Mm. And from that one, so sort of going chronologically with all these that I didn't actually mean to, but I've fallen into that and realized, yes, this is a good way to approach this. If anybody asked, this was the plan all along. That
Of
you
course.
had To Do RPG, which was the building blocks for Chat RPG. Now, this next one is a VR game, so not as much obvious one-to-one overlap as the two RPGs. But there are elements here because this is one that Chat is able to have input with and generate enemies. You mentioned it in passing earlier. And the thing that I like about this particular game is you mentioned in the development of it that you had a glorious epiphany regarding VR development. And as soon as you said it, I felt like everything made sense, that you are so right. The thing that is vital in all VR games and what is just required as sort of the baseline for functionality and for fun and to be able to make it all come together, VR requires grappling hooks.
Yes, grappling hooks, absolutely. Yes, it's the building blocks of the metaverse. You must you gotta make the metaverse grapple again.
And what makes it so good is that it's jokey and silly at its concept, but I think you actually hit some very real mental and just fun elements there. That what do people want to do in VR? Things that they can't do in real life. in VR, what do you want to be able to show off? You want to be able to show off physics. You want to be able to show off visuals. Grappling hooks do actually hit the cross
Yeah.
point of a lot of those things that you're, generally speaking, not going to be able to just Spider-Man your way across different floating rocks or really any normal terrain. But it's this fantasy concept, this fictional concept. Well, not a fully fictional concept, but the average person having grappling hooks is not reality as we know it now. But it's a concept that most people are familiar with, that they know what a grappling hook is, and the concept of being able to swing or be pulled to a high altitude or different direction is very fun. And you use that as the just basis of building a VR game.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so like ideally in VR, you should be able to do something that's like you can't do in real life, right? Like if you're just walking around in it, you're just walking around in like a less realistic world where like nothing smells like it's supposed to, and maybe you get a headache or something. Like maybe you don't like being in there in this world where you can only like see and hear things. So like we got to do something else that's like special and fun. Like, so the grappling hook's great. I played some games where you can just fly, and like flying's weird because like if you fly, then like
At a certain
what are the
point, it just
rules
feels
about
like
flying?
walking, but
Yes,
with
yes,
different vantage points.
it either feels like walking in into like just like walking through the air, or if there's like some other condition for it, it's like, well, the condition feels like artificial, or it'll make you sick because there's like too weird of like a physics interaction with it. So like when you do the grappling hook thing, there is like, I feel like, at least for me, like probably like
It's the momentum.
in the video, I had my dad play it. Like a big part of why I wanted to build a VR game is because me and my dad enjoy playing VR together. So the like my dad was able to play it without getting sick, which is great. But like there's something about the grappling hook where you can kind of like tell what it's doing, and it's like obvious what it's about to do to you, and your brain can kind of predict it. And that was actually like kind of a revelation when I was making the game. I was like, are the physics in Unreal Engine like reliable enough that like I can build something that like makes sense to my brain and doesn't feel random? Like there's some other things in that game that happen that are like current bugs with the game that are like very random. Gosh, like if I had like no other, I feel like that's the game. If I had like no other like material worries or responsibilities, I would just maybe just like work on that game, just like as a little pipe dream forever. Just like I don't know. I yeah. If I had a clone of me, just like I just have one clone that was just like working on that game. We just buy him another PC, he'd just be working on that.
Yeah, grappling Woody.
Yeah, the Grapple Woody. Yeah, I think about that a lot about having clones. Like I wish I had clones of me.
Someday maybe, but then you also have to fight for dominance with your clones.
No, see, that's like one of the first things that we're gonna do is like we're gonna set up a democratic system. Like that's like sort of a trope, right? And I understand why it's there. It's like if there's a bunch of clones of you, then who is in charge and who's gonna make the decisions for your corporate body of clones and why. So I think what you need to do immediately is like, if you know that you're the Prime clone, you need to discard it. You're just gonna be like, hey, none of us know who the Prime is, which indicates you're the Prime, but like see if they go with it. And like, all right guys, like it's like we all share one thing in common, is that we like is self-love and a healthy amount, and we would like to see mutual thriving for all of the other iterations of a person we care very much about, and we're going to try and work together and make this happen. And
we're gonna take turns, rotation on who gets to be grappling hook Woody.
I guess, like, I don't know, because I feel like I'm like, I don't know, like, I feel so, like, I feel generous about it. Like, I feel like I'd be happy to be, this is the thing that you got to know about yourself before you do the clone thing, is like, I know that I would be happy as grappling hook Woody or as regular Woody. So,
because
like,
you're still becoming the beneficiary of grappling hook Woody.
Well, yeah, yes, but also, like, I think both timelines would be dope. Like, so, like, if you split me now and you told me that I wasn't the Prime clone and that I would just be the Woody that was going to develop a game, that, that otherwise we don't have time to finish, then like I'd be like, oh cool, I get to do the game. That's fun. I like that. All right, great, cool. The thing that people don't think about is like you're gonna need more food. You know, you're gonna need more food. You're gonna start spending more money on utilities. And like where you like housing the clones. That's like that situation starts to add up. You know what I mean? It's like
Hadn't actually thought of clone theory, but here we are.
that's the hard part of it, honestly. It's like just like the regular logistics of more foot traffic, really.
Mm-mm.
You gotta start thinking about your your footprint on the world. It's like, okay, well, he's gonna be consuming twice as much. It's like,
We need another bed.
yeah, do we need another car? Like, what do we, we want him to have like, all the various clones that have enough autonomy. Like, you probably want to take it one at a time. You know what I mean? Like, you start with the clone that's just
you
like
can't just
your
scale
developer.
from 1 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like, I think like the thing afterwards is like, do they all end up just doing? I'm going so. This is like, sorry.
Oh no,
Like,
I enabled
said,
this, Woody. I knew what I was doing. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I'll keep going then. But like, like, do they all go on different journeys? Like, does it split your timeline, right? Does like one of the clones, like Butterfly Fury, like ends up like tripping over a penny or something like that, and like ends up going to the hospital, and like he, like looking into the penny, he sees like the woes of capitalism, and like
Oh gosh, the insurance industry would have a field day.
Right, and you know what I mean? And it's like, well, we're gonna leave the like Michael Bay's like The Island out of this. We're not gonna think about whether or not like, one of us is gonna like donate a kidney to the other or something like that. And maybe it's a foregone conclusion anyway. But like, like, do they end up having different experiences than you that end up sort of shaping their worldviews? And you're like, to have like external, internal debates about things, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, you're like,
assuming we don't have hive mind at play.
Yeah, one of the clones is like, hey, like, we should we should join a cult, and the other one's like, no, we should be big ol' atheists, or like another one's like, what if we got membership at a gym? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and like, like you could open yourself up to externalized internal debates. Yeah, you have to be real open-minded as a person. You have to be willing to be the not prime clone. If you're just in it to be the clone that's in charge of and make the other ones do your bidding, you're not ready.
I think those are wise words, Woody. Very wise words.
Thank you for indulging me on that. That was weirdly a lot of fun.
I can for what it's worth, I can tell you with complete confidence, I have never had that type of conversation with a guest in 105 episodes, but that was delightful.
Oh my gosh, that's like the kind of thing I think about all the time.
But anyways, grappling hooks. So you created this game to play with your father, and like you said, you were able to actually get it up off the ground and that he wasn't sick, which is, it sounds like, oh, it's a funny throwaway line of, hey, didn't get sick. No, that's actually an accomplishment of being able to build a good moving VR game with momentum like that, and it not cause someone to become physically ill. That's baseline success right there. And one of the primary functions of this game is that folks in chat can, type their name or do certain things, and that it will then populate enemies. You have the rising fog, so you have, multiple challenges going on with the gameplay here, where it's not just, okay, I need to get rid of all these little drone bots that are being populated in, but you also have to continually move upward and not fall. So you actually made a very simple but elegant game out of all this. And like I said, it very much gave a strong argument for the grappling hook as a mainstay in VR development, or at the very least, like I said, in actuality, a core concept of what makes VR appealing.
Yep. Make the metaverse grapple again. That's my platform. I mean, there are a lot of great grappling hook VR games. One of the weirdest things about this stuff is like once you start like scratching your own itch, like I ended up making one of my favorite VR games. Like I don't know if it's my favorite VR game. If it like ever got fully fleshed out to be the game that it's like, supposed to be, I think like hands down like the coolest VR game. Like I don't know if you caught this from the video, like there's like probably stuff I didn't talk about, like there's multiple guns in the game. Like you can also get a sword that is extremely satisfying with physics.
Too afraid to
Ma-
play Half-Life Alex.
I am too afraid. Like, okay, so I was playing Half-Life Alex, one of the greatest VR games there is, and like at one point, it just asked me to like walk into a big gate through a small door, and all I could see inside was like flesh stalactites, and I was just like, no, no, I'm I'm done. Like, I'm not. I can't do it anymore. No, sorry. And then I stopped. And
Drawing the
like
line.
and it limits your ammo. It's like if a VR game was like, hey, bottomless clip, bro, go for it. Like, it's gonna be some weird stuff in here, but like you got some guns. I'm like, I don't know. Like there's like something psychologically grounding about that where I can just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna shoot my way out of this one. But that game is like, hope you saved your bullets, like big time. So it's like, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not a horror person. I'm not a horror person at all. I have an anxiety disorder. I'm like, I do not do that. Don't mess with that stuff.
Oh yeah, horror has never been my cup of tea, whether it's horror games, movies. I enjoy watching people play horror games because if someone else is playing, it's like playing with the lights on.
Yeah.
That I'm able to do that. The way I consume horror movies is I look up the Wikipedia article because I like mysteries, and there's usually mystery baked into horror in some way.
Mhm.
So I'll read up the synopsis and be like, oh, so that's how it was of, there was actually a monster and it was because of that, or no, there wasn't a monster. It was somebody who was tricking people. That's nice. I have no intention to see that film.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
having that be the end of it for me.
It's like someone else can play that one out, you know? Like
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like it's like a leave that one for the unfortunate people who are living out that film, you know? It's like, sorry
yeah.
you're in that position, bro, but I'm not going to be firing my mirror neurons off at empathizing with this situation.
Nope.
Yep. Pass.
So we then
Pass.
move on from Grappling Hook VR to the Takahata 101 Gatekeeper game, which is, at least in the playlist that you have on your YouTube channel, the most
Yeah.
recent one of your full-fledged projects. And like I said, that's one of the things that initially brought you my attention of just something that I had seen. And we, again, here have the concept of someone can type their name in chat or type something in chat and have it impact what goes on stream. And in this case, it's typing a number, and that is where a enemy will go through. And it's a very basic defender game of, like a side scroller block / catch game
Yep.
of make sure that you hit and repel any of these male VTubers that are trying to infiltrate. And one, just as a delightful satirization of the whole thing and just building off of a running joke that Taka has, I very much enjoyed it just from, the baseline concept level. But then it was actually just a good game on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we're talking about this game. It did get like based upon some like jokes from Takahata 101 stream. Takahata 101, legendary VTuber, host of the Weary 101. It's this fictional bar. If you're watching this show, you know it already. But
Very likely, yes.
yeah. It's super cool thing where he set up where he just like has his finger on the pulse of like the world of VTubers and has a lot of opinions about him too. So I've been at one point I was like, oh, I really want to make a stream game. It'd be really cool to make one for a streamer and stuff, and like have I was on his show back in December, and I was like, like part of the reason I think I got on the show because I like just kind of like posted I responded to an all call he had, and I just included a video that was like my like highlight reel, like this is me, this is what he does, this is what I do, and it's like I make interactive stream stuff. I guess it's at this point this is like the third or fourth interactive Twitch game that I've built.
Yeah, because you have
shelves that we didn't talk about. Maybe not a ton to say there yet. Maybe
okay,
TBD.
Okay, yeah. So
I don't know.
Anyways, the Gatekeeper game that Taka has just the running gag of yes, we should gatekeep male VTubers, and yes, obviously, folks, he's not actually advocating for gatekeeping. It is very much satirization, but it's just that running joke. And if you know Taka and his content, you know that he is the farthest thing from a gatekeeper in the community.
Right.
That he is incredibly welcoming. That's the entire purpose, really, of the Weary 101 is to let people in as much as possible. To he actively uses his platform which is quite considerable to really put the spotlight on others. But it's just the running joke of, oh yes, male VTuber gatekeeping. I was the first male VTuber, and that it's a fun, positive thing because everyone knows it is so antithetical to his actual nature.
I mean, I look, the guy does get irritated when people post dumb stuff. That's like when he's like making his jokes about being a gatekeeper of VTubers. It's like usually after someone has done something remarkably immature on Twitter or something like that.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so funny. My Twitter feed is like split 50-50 between like people I know who are streamers, who are VTubers, and like Unreal Engine people. And it's like the most jarring thing because it'll just be like 1 minute somebody being like, ooh, it's it's hot in here, ooh woo, and then like right afterwards it'll be like, here's how you do multi-threading for and like use Unreal Engine's profiler to be able to see the amount of milliseconds that it takes for certain processes to happen on your time. It's like just the wildest thing ever, and like I'm usually there more for the latter if I'm being honest, but like I see both Twitters. I see VTuber Twitter. Sometimes I roll my eyes at VTuber Twitter. And so like when Taka's making jokes about that, it's like there's something very funny and self-aware about that space. And so I don't know, like when I first wanted to go on the show, I was like, hey, can I make you a game? And then like it was like definitely not the point of like the stream, which I knew, but I still floated it to him. I was like, hey, can I make you like a stream game? And he was like, he literally said like, I'm not even sure what to say to that.
Yeah,
so
you have the screenshot in the video of just I don't know how to respond to that, and it's
a
fair reaction on his part of just somebody waltzes up to you and says, hey, can I make you a game? And it's not, can I work on the game that you are working on, or like, can I ask you for advice about making a game? It's, can I make you thing?
I don't think I really asked for his permission so much as like kind of like told him I was going to be doing that, and like I like didn't really care if he was going to say yes or no.
Would you like to use this thing that I am making? In all likelihood, whether you like it or not, and if you don't want me to, I won't use your likeness for it, but I'm probably going to make something anyways, and could put your likeness on it with relative ease.
I mean, for what the game is, so like you had it right. It's like a side-scrolling catcher game. Catcher games are like a really easy first games to make. In fact, we did release a tutorial today, which is like how to build the fundamental building blocks of specifically and precisely that game, which I recorded as a tutorial when I started coding it on stream. So the idea like kind of fully came into place because of his like thing about like gotta gatekeep the VTubers, like, and something people talk about in his communities, like it's like a gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss, just like kind of having fun with those words. And I was able to just kind of link it to a bunch of jokes from his thing, and like it was really cool because like like he has some pretty big streams with a lot of people online, and I'm just like I got to come on and we got to play the game together, and so much of it I kept as a surprise for him. So just like to be able to see the delight and like be in the call with him while he's like powering up his like super wide meter or whatever I called it, that like it's a shit post game, honestly. Like it's it was like something.
That's the whole point. That's the charm of it.
Yeah. Without saying too much, it like did score me some points with like a client that I was talking to later on. They were like, hey, that was pretty cool. We like that. It was like, anyways, don't want to get too far into that, but so the whole process just like really fun, super cool. People should watch the video. Jay, something is like I'm realizing as you're like telling me what the projects are that I've worked on, is that like none of them are like simple. Like all of them have like 5 things connected to them. It's like I need to make a Twitch-enabled grappling hook VR game.
To be fair, that's most games. That's most things. That things are rarely simple, and that
but like I mean, just in terms of like something being high concept, like I'm just like realizing like, oh my gosh, like everything I'm working on is just like wildly like deep fried chicken, but deep fried again. Like it's so layered in itself.
To borrow a phrase from Taka, actually, he's said several times, VTubing is just streaming without extra steps. That being a VTuber in and of itself is actively putting a greater burden on your computer, on your own mental bandwidth of pieces that you have to run, pieces that you have to set up
Boy,
in
is that
OBS,
right.
and it's not too shocking, I suppose, that someone with the interests that you have then ends up creating these types of things that are multi-layered. And to be fair, like I said, most things are going to be multi-layered anyways, but especially for VTubers in this space, that's sort of what people here do, that they get big ideas and scope creep is a thing regardless of if it's the professional world or content creation, and that's part of the fun of it for folks of just,
Yeah.
all right, I want to make this thing. And yes, I might realize along the way that it's a bit more or a lot more complex than I had in mind, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know if this is a shortcoming or just something I'm like thinking about a lot that like I'm trying to implement more, but like there is a content creator who I follow. I'm in like a super secret Discord of theirs. I think I'm allowed to say that publicly, but like that his name's Kevin Perry, and he posts a lot of super viral like magic trick editing videos. It does like a lot of stop motion stuff, and he makes videos that are like very magical, but they are extremely simple. Like he's usually just doing some like one thing that's like one or two things that is like full of delight but very different. Like it's not highly conceptual, it's just like one concept. And I saw an interview with him where he was talking about that's kind of like the secret to going viral. It's like you want something that's not gonna like completely break everything. You want something that's like two things combined. Like you want to combine like two elements of an idea. It's like two ideas together. It's like OK Go on the treadmills. You know what I'm talking about, right? Classic, internet video from forever goes. Like
I do remember several OK Go videos. I don't know if I remember
the OK Go videos are just like guys doing a thing. Like at least the early ones. The early ones
wait,
are like,
yes, I just looked up to remind myself. I know exactly what that one is.
There's
The
one
OK
of the
Go
first
video.
viral music videos was the OK Go guys dancing on treadmills. They've got treadmills that are going in different directions, and they're just like, it's just choreographed to them on like
it's synchronized swimming on treadmills.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Yes. See, like Jay, like what you just did there, where you're like, it's synchronized swimming on treadmills, is like that's perfect because like the thing I'm always looking for is like really succinct ways to explain something. Like you can be the best programmer in the world, you can be the best filmmaker in the world. If you can't pitch things like really simply to people, like it's not gonna work as well. So like some of the videos that we're talking about right now, and like in my head, like they were supposed to be viral or they were supposed to go further than they went. They're like supposed to be big videos that people would like, really, really get into. And like some of them I don't think they did, partially just because like I'm doing too much with it. Like it's like in screenwriting they call it a hat on a hat. It's a hat on a hat. It's like it's a thing in a thing. It's doing multiple bits at the same time. Like it's too complicated. So like with Kevin's videos, like it's him but he's in stop motion. It's him but he's doing a magic trick with editing. It's him but he's gonna like match cut into a crash test dummy or something. And like for the stuff I'm doing, it's like I feel, especially with VTuber stuff, especially with like all of this stuff that's the future, is like it gets so complicated. It's like, how do you very easily just like say what the thing is? That's rough. We talked earlier, and it was like the whole the primary skills communication. Like you write well, and then you can organize people when you write well. You can give full expression to yourself and to what you intend when you write well. Same thing with this. Like if you can summarize well and you can like take concepts and you can boil them down till they're easy, boom, got them.
Yeah,
good to go.
That it goes a long way, like you said, just communication. And you mentioned the concept of combining two things that might be simple, and it's just that combination that hasn't been done before, or maybe hasn't been done before in a specific way, and that a little spark of joy and delight that you have there. And you're very right, what ends up creating entertainment as a whole, of just what is something new and different that there's been a million isekai animes, and each of them, their shtick is trying to have, all right, what is the slight twist of, being in another world with a smartphone or with, good cooking or different things like that. And
Oh man, that's
in
the isekai
VTuber,
to get into. Is the one where the meals are good. It's like, oh, I'm got hit by a truck and I'm gone, but oh boy, like
now I get to just do cooking and have a good time, maybe beat a few monsters along the way.
yeah, no, that's great. I don't read too many isekais, but like, I mean, look, I, yeah, that's a hypothetical situation I'm entirely willing to indulge. So
Yeah, just all right. If we're gonna go to another world, which other world do we want to go to? That's another rabbit hole for sure.
yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they made a Mario isekai. It's fantastic.
I haven't even thought about it that way.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, I look. Hey, you're on VTuber Twitter. I'm surprised you didn't run into that take. I ran into it like 3 times. With the trailers, people are like, "It's Mario, but he's isekai."
Yeah, to be fair, actually, I think that even original Mario canon is just isekai. That
Yeah.
historically he was a plumber in Brooklyn who went into a pipe, and that's why you have the warp pipes and everything. That he is not native to the Mushroom Kingdom in any of the iterations, even the one the now infamous 1993 film, which caused us to go 30 years without getting another Mario film, still an isekai.
Yep. Can I just say this is like a weird thing, but like I don't know, man. It's my episode of VTuber Talk, so I'm gonna go for it. One of the things that just like constantly delights me is Mario games. Like I just finished playing 3D World. I finally beat it. It's like a 10-year-old game, but
This works out so nicely because the Super Mario Galaxy music is literally playing the background right now. I don't know if you're listening on your end, but
no,
yeah.
no, but oh, that's perfect. I was replaying that game in January. I got the 3D All Stars collection for Switch, which like gives you like 3 on a cartridge.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, oh man, freaking I love Galaxy. Galaxy is one of my all-time favorite games. It's like the only Mario where like the story is good because like you get all the like exposition about Rosalina.
Yeah.
Through the like
The little
storybook.
Mm.
Yeah, but like you don't. It's not necessarily what makes Mario great most of the time. What I like about Mario the most is that like there's so much like business and red tape and like just boring adult stuff we got to do in life, and like even in kids media, like even media for children, like I feel like it can get a little dry, and it can it can get very conceptual too, right? Like the thing about Mario that nobody really talks about is that it's like a crazy acid trip every time. Like
You're not wrong.
Yeah, no, it's like you're gonna play a little plumber man and you're gonna shoot fireballs at plants that are the size of your entire body that come up through pipes to eat you. It's like that's a wild pitch. That's a really weird pitch for a game. And like the fact that we just have these games and that they've been like the most popular game for a long time just like fills me with delight, because like I feel like real life is like so ordinarily very gray and dry and cut and dry. Like it's most of what we get in media makes a little too much sense, and like the Mario stuff is always extremely surreal. Like he's gonna
it's only
jump
gotten
through
weirder
a painting
over time. It's gotten weirder because the original one, going all the way back to Donkey Kong, which is just all right, climbing up these different steel girders and whatnot. And the most fantastic thing that you really have there is the fact that it's a giant ape, that it's a King Kong ripoff, and that you have these little fireballs that'll hop out of the oil barrel. But otherwise, it's not even that fantastic. It's not until you get to Super Mario Brothers on the NES that you have the whole concept of the mushrooms and everything and the fire flowers that are introduced. But then, like you said, we get to Mario 64, and now we're jumping through paintings. We get to Galaxy, and we're flying through galaxies. Don't worry about the oxygen matter. It's okay. Odyssey, which I know isn't entirely to your taste for reasons we might get to, that it's still wild and zany in its own way, and we just sort of accepted that.
Yeah, I have problems with Odyssey. I like a lot of things that are going on in Odyssey. I just don't necessarily like them all together. I don't feel like the game paces super well, and I think like the art direction's a little bit all over the place, which is ironic because the thing I just said that I like about Mario is how weird it is. It's weird, but it's not usually like heterogeneous like that game is. Like that game is kind of like does like also kind of doing a lot of things, but like I don't really know what that game is about. Where like previous Mario games recently, I kind of like I guess it's about like putting your hat on stuff, but like in Galaxy, like it's space travel, and in Sunshine, it's a tropical vacation, and like
That Odyssey, that in practice and even in its name, that I think the problem that you have with it, I can completely understand why it's not to your taste. But I very much look at it and say, I think this was a deliberate choice on the game maker's part of just that they wanted to have all these wildly different environments. And that's the whole thing of
yeah,
an Odyssey, where you are going to these vastly different locales. And that you are right. In terms of artistic cohesion, it is not nearly as consistent as any of the other games. And that in this specific case, I think that was the intent. But at the same time, I can understand that for someone, especially with your filmmaking background, where you're going to be having a bit more of a critical eye on those types of things, that it wouldn't quite vibe with your personal tastes.
I think like it's that yeah. Like when I'm thinking about it now, like some of it was definitely just like the way everything was presented together. Um, like there's no hub world. Like you're always going from world to world, which
Yeah, the
I'm
hub
a sucker.
is the ship itself.
I'm a sucker for hub worlds. I like a good hub world. You give me like a like the Spyro games had the original ones for PlayStation had amazing hub
Yeah,
worlds.
that you have the hub world of Peach's Castle in 64, the
Yeah.
Observatory in Galaxy.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so much fun in Sunshine. Like you can just play in the hub world for a really long time.
Oh
in
yeah,
Sunshine.
just going around Delfino.
Yeah. But like, gosh, and so like in Odyssey though, you lose that. That's not the thing that sinks it for me totally. But like, um, in Odyssey, like you do go to all these different places, but they don't all necessarily feel like they're in the same game to me in kind of a bad way. Like in 3D World, there's so much weird, crazy, random stuff going on, and that game doesn't have a theme either, other than just being kind of like a limited perspective 3D game. Like I guess it has like a cat theme, but like everything kind of feels like it belongs in that game. It just kind of like all clicks. At one point in Odyssey, I'm just like I'm fighting a dragon. It's like I'm fighting a dragon in a world where Bowser already exists. It's like, why are we doing this? This doesn't like. This feels like someone just like ripped a model out of like a JRPG that was being developed next door and just like tossed it in the game because like I don't even know why. And it's like kind of clear that the dragon doesn't have like a full model. It's just like the head basically.
Yeah, the torso
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and it's like this is like straight like an odd beat for a Mario game, and I don't know, like cancel me now. I'll die on this hill. But like just I don't know, like I beat the game. I didn't really enjoy it. Also, like Bowser's trying to marry Peach. Like presumably wasn't he always trying to like take her hand to be by his side? Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
they've
This
leaned
one
into
he
that
wears
a fair
suit.
bit more. I think that they have had that a couple times in like the Paper Mario games. I've only played one or two of the
Yeah,
Paper Mario games, but I have a vague memory of that
those are good
tux or
games.
something similar.
Yeah. So okay, yeah. So I guess we had seen that before. To me, like I don't know. I just think the bar is really high on Mario games, and like there's some stuff in that game that's really really cool, but it felt like a hodgepodge of tech demos to me. Um, like there like it doesn't repeat itself very much, except for in ways like that also kind of feel out of place to me. Like you fight these characters called the Brutals, which are like I would describe as like sort of like weird Easter bunnies, and like they I don't know, like maybe they were designed to like round out like give more characters to the next Mario Kart game. I don't know, but like they don't feel like they fit super well. And
It
it's not
did
like
strike me as odd that they didn't just have the Koopalings. That obviously I
yeah.
understand the pun at play that it's the bridal party, and
Oh, I missed that.
that it's the brutal bridal party.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I like the
But at
game
the
now.
same
You fixed
time,
it for me.
you could have
Brilliant
potentially
game,
used
10 out
that
of 10.
pun with the Koopas. But that's what that was at play, at least at the high level for the naming
Okay.
convention.
Okay.
And that's why they're all in the very fancy attire. They use the spinning hat as the weapon, things like that.
See, actually that fixes things for me. I'm happy to be like wrong even in my own opinions. Like that's not terrible. Like that feels that like kind of fixes them for me a little bit, honestly.
Oh, well,
That
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. Also like a couple of Switch games that I played, I was before I owned a Switch. Like I played on a friend's Switch, so I like wasn't speedrunning them, but I had like limited time to like get through
Mm.
them. So like, and like Breath of the Wild was a game that I played that where I had to play it quickly because I was borrowing a Switch.
Oh, I consider that not the way to consume
It's
that game, at least
probably
not the first
not,
time.
but
I took my
yeah,
sweet time. I explored basically every corner of that game, and I'm the type of person, I don't really replay games very often, if at all.
yeah,
And knowing that about myself, I take my time playing games because I know, all right, unless there's something very, very special about it that I'm less likely to revisit it just because I want to play new things. Um, but there's so much in that game that if you want to be a speedrunner, obviously, yeah, go right ahead, and then speed is the name of the game, literally. I don't think that is a game you should be speeding through as your first time consuming
yeah,
that game.
fair.
It's meant to be this slow, very literally and sort of conceptually environmental game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't do tremendously well with those types of games with my ADHD.
That's
Like
fair.
part of the reason I like Skyrim is Skyrim's a multiplayer like a massive world game that I like. Most open world games kind of don't do great for me. But Skyrim is like kind of like because there's content like in every corner of it, which is like still pretty rare, I think, for an open world game. Like it's just not that common that you play a game as dense as that. Like High Watermark for sure. But yeah, like certain games like that, even games like I really admire. Like I admire Breath of the Wild, but I don't always love playing it. No Man's Sky, I got into it for a little while. It's like I understand it. I get what it's supposed to do, and like most of the time I'm in there, I just feel like I'm like just going around empty stuff, uh, and like I don't know. This
I've
may be
never
also an
played that
adulthood
one, but
thing.
I've heard that was from what I understand, is a very different game now from when it was released.
Yes.
That when it was first released, that it was very effectively devoid of anything, and that now it has a fair bit more content. But I can't speak to that in any personal experience.
I think video games also change as you get older, right? So like I
Hmm.
have less time to play games now that I'm like making games as often as I'm making them and also doing other client projects and things um open world games are less appealing. I did play the new Pokemon and I liked it. It was, I thought it got too bad of a rap. I definitely agreed with some of the criticisms, but um I just play games differently now as an adult because I don't have a ton of time.
Hmm.
Um, Subconsciously, I'm wondering, one of the things, like the first quest line I did in the latest Pokemon game is you can, if you played it, you can go through a quest line that will give your companion character more mobility moves, like the ability
Yeah.
to do like double jumps and like gliding and running and stuff. And I went through all of those first because it was more fun for me to play the game when I could move faster. And I think some of that comes down to you know, not necessarily always wanting to take the scenic route anymore. Like, just kind of shoved me into it like when I've been replaying Breath of the Wild and I'm just kind of feeling a little bit like we gotta go all the way over there, and I don't have any of the towers up that I can fast travel to, so it's like,
Well, because I'm similar in those ways, but not because I don't have patience. It sort of goes back to my concept of that I don't replay games a lot and that I want to be thorough. That
okay,
one of the first things that I did uh, in Breath of the Wild was I tried to get a lot of towers, and that uh, you know if I see a new tower, I'm going to get it, and that I would take time to explore a bit, but I would do that, and I haven't actually beaten Pokemon Scarlet Violet yet, but as I have gone through, I actually started noticing, wait, I want to prioritize that line of being able to actually upgrade the companion Pokemon for that same reason, because I keep running into these areas where it's like, clearly I'm supposed to be able to get up here eventually, but I can't. I'd
hmm,
rather just do this because, not even having impatience, I worry about this world is so freaking vast. I'm not going to remember all these nooks and
yes,
crannies that I can't reach.
yes,
I just
oh
want to be able to access them on the first go through, so I don't need to worry about having to backtrack and remember all these places where I've already beaten these story beats, and therefore less likely to explore and just miss entirely, not because I'm impatient, but because there's so dang much.
yeah, no, for sure, and every open world game carries a little bit of that anxiety, right? Like, there's something about that. It's like, oh man, we just don't have we I don't have as much time as I used to. It's like, and I want to remember all those nooks and crannies, and I want to go to all those places. Like, let's get Clone Me to play Breath of the Wild again. Give him the like what 60, 90 hours it's gonna take, and just like let him report back. He doesn't have anything else to worry about. So we're gonna have one Clone Me that's working on a VR game. We're gonna have one Clone Me that's just like trying to be objective about Breath of the Wild. Um, in the like 12 days before the sequel game ships that is coming up soon. Oh man, I don't. I'm like I want to play that game, but I also don't like. I didn't like the last game enough to really want to spend $70 on it. So I don't know. Ugh.
Meanwhile, I thoroughly enjoyed Breath of the Wild, but again, I think that part of yours may have come from the fact that you were trying to speed through it, but I also do empathize with, it's a long game and you don't have time, and that being able to get that. But I think part of it for me also was that I didn't actually play Breath of the Wild when it first came out, which was sort of a surprise for me because I'm a big Zelda fan and I was just busy at the time. And I ended up picking it up in March 2020 when I was realizing, okay, I'm going to be working from home for the foreseeable future and not going out for a while. So as I am going out to stock up on food and whatnot, I'm also going to pick up a couple of games. And, the first one that I knew I was going to pick up was Breath of the Wild because, it's the game that I had been wanting to play anyways, had heard good things about, and knew it was going to take a while. And goodness knows, we had a lot of time during those early months.
Yeah, no, we did. It was like, I don't know. My circumstances for that were different. I don't talk too much about like my personal life with what I'm doing, but I'll just get like little nugget. I got married at the beginning of COVID. Like, I don't talk too much about marriage stuff, but like I have, I got a ring here, for a reason, and and that's a weird time to get married. I'll say that. At the very first week of
what
COVID.
was it? If you don't mind my asking, was it right before or right after things locked down?
It was like as things were locking down.
So I guess the stemming question here is, were you able to celebrate with extended family?
Not extended, no. Like with immediate family. It's pretty weird. Yeah, but
I wanted to live in interesting times. I didn't mean this interesting.
Yeah, it's weird though. I feel like, I don't know. Like that's one of the things about being on the internet is like I feel like there's people in my life I just like don't want to run into like what I'm doing. That's another thing I like about being a VTuber is like I don't know, like I was at an event recently where someone did recognize me, but only after I like explained what I did. Like like they didn't know right away that that I was that guy. And it was good. It was at an event for other developers. And I was like, oh yeah, well I have this Unreal Engine YouTube channel, and I showed it to someone. They're like, oh, you're that guy? And it was like, it was cool because like, I don't know, if I had just done all that with my face, they would have been like, oh hey, and they would have like either pretended to know me or like whatever. And then like, they like, it was a totally different experience, and I like could kind of like choose when I wanted to like reveal that I was combine those two worlds. So I don't think I've talked about our COVID wedding. Like that was probably not a huge talking point for me. Just like it is VTuber stuff's so interesting because it's like, I don't know, that like there's very few VTubers I feel like who are like truly, in terms of like operations security, like truly private, but like like if people want to pop your bubble, it's not like, for some people it's like hard enough, but like for other people, I don't know that I'm like
the sliding scale of what is your comfort level on what you want to share, and transparency, and blending those two worlds. And it's something that I myself have run into. That initially for me, the concept of being Jay, which I've said in the past is not my name, was partially because I wanted to be able to keep myself mentally in the space of where I assumed the majority of my guests would be, which is to say, of having that layer of separation. I wanted to just keep myself aware of it at all times. So it was initially self-imposed. It then sort of grew into a bit of a game with myself, and of that I've said very few people in my real life know about VTuber Talk, like low double digits at this point.
Okay.
That for a very long time it was under 5, and that a combination of things have the question of, all right, how, when, and if I want to start creating a greater overlap between IRL me and VTuber Talk.
Yeah. So you definitely have it. It's like I said, you're even deeper in it than other VTubers. Like you don't even have a model. You're the most secret of us all. Truly.
Yeah, and well, I've also said me not having a model, that's sheer laziness.
Oh well, you can play into it like you're a mastermind instead of a
Yeah.
lazy bones. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I feel like just me being a VTuber is in a way like that like kind of a way to it is like a privacy screen to an extent. Like it's just me being like, hi, this is a cool fun tech thing I do for sure, like central to my work, but also like, hey, not really first name last name out here. I'm like kind of just, hey, I'm Woody.
Yeah. And it's nice to have that option that people are able to choose, and that there is no right or wrong answer to it.
Yeah.
And that there are a couple of VTubers that I've known that have been outright blending it with their IRL persona because they may have done content creation beforehand, and that they built it into part of their brand, and that VTubing became their primary way of content creation, but they still allowed things to have that crossover with their IRL selves. Others have kept things extremely locked down. Others have started with the barriers high and let them lower over time, and that it's just one of the really nice perks of VTubing and of content creation to have that option.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. So, like a recent project that I finished, I put out there, and I filmed myself in real life. Like I do go on camera. Like it's not like I never go on camera, but like I went on camera, and I'm I'm on my roof filming some motion capture stuff because I do a lot of stuff with motion capture. This is a sponsored video for a motion capture company, and someone I've never spoken to DM'd me on Twitter and was like, hey, I think I know, like, I think I recognize where you live. Like, I live over here. Like, what's up? And it was just like, and it was like kind of the thing where it's like, yeah, like you could probably figure it out. Like, it's not super huge secret, not like fairly obvious, but like, I didn't really draw attention to it in the video for the most part, other than it just kind of being, yeah.
So I'm gonna give you a quick sec that you're gonna take care of some things. I'm
let me
gonna
finish
vamp
the
for a
thought.
minute. Yeah,
I was just gonna.
sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Look, I'll break the fourth wall. Jay is very graciously like trying to give me like 5 seconds to like eat some chips. Because I haven't like eaten in a really long time. But I'm having a good time and liking the conversation. So like I think eventually probably I will talk about where I live in the content that I'm doing. It's not really a big secret. I have talked about it with my community before, but like, and probably mentioned it on stream, but like it's just like uncomfortable when the first time you're like showing the background of where you live, someone is like, hey buddy, hey, are we city mates? And it's like, oh
that's
geez.
marginally
Like,
unnerving.
Yeah, it's just like, ugh. Like, and like I don't know, person could be very lovely. It's just like yeah, just my immediate gut reaction was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Uncomfortable.
Yep.
It's like obvious, but like maybe, and like for them, they were probably looking for some way to break the ice and talk to me anyways. But like, I don't know. It's just like they didn't say anything else. They weren't like, oh yeah, I'm like I enjoy your work, or I've been like a big fan of or like this tutorial helped me or something, or like I been wanting to talk to you. They were just like, hey, I think I know where you live. I live there. Hey,
Eh,
right? And it's like, oh wow. Anyways, I just need like
yeah,
Jay, if you can vamp for me while I like
I
speed eat
will.
some chips, that would be delightful. I'm just gonna
Yeah, no,
munch
I've
these
got the
things down.
video for a moment. So yes, you should be seeing a black screen on stream right now, at least in that window. That is intentional. But in the meantime, if you aren't already following Woody for some absurd reason, please be sure to do so, giving him another shout out here. And there's also a link in the channel panels on Twitch and the video
I'm
description
gonna
for
mute because it's
YouTube.
gonna get
Oh,
very
yeah,
crunchy.
go right
I'm a
ahead. But hopefully you all are enjoying so far. That if you are liking the show, that you can follow me here on Twitch and on Twitter. It's just Vtuber Talk, both places. I do these shows about once a week. I don't have a particular schedule to it all. That I try to really be flexible for my guests' scheduling and time. Fortunately, my own schedule ends up being flexible enough to allow that. So I think this week and next week I end up on Mondays, but for a while I had like a bunch on Tuesdays. Then there were Fridays. So can't promise regularity, but if you keep up with me here on Twitch and Twitter, that you can always be finding out who I'm talking with. That this is actually episode 105. Crossed that 100 episode milestone just a couple weeks ago. Been at this now for a little over 2 years. And it's always fun for me to be able to talk to somebody new, like I said, about every week, because everybody has their own experiences, their own stories, and there's some overlap. You know, I've talked Pokemon a fair bit, probably with 40-50% of my guests, at least for a moment, some in greater depth than others. But even then, the experiences, even with those consistent topics, end up being different. But tonight I've been able to talk with Woody about filmmaking and just, the whole clone concept and clone ethics and clone efficiency is a conversation I've never actually had before. And that's so much fun that VTuber Talk for me is just a passion project of me being an extrovert that during the past couple years, when going outside and being at live events wasn't an option, that I decided to sort of spin this up as a way for me to flex the sort of organizer, event manager part of my brain, and also just be able to have fun conversations, socialize a little bit, and meet some cool people along the way. So it's been a very fun journey for me, for sure. And I already have. I'm fortunate enough to have, I think, as of today, as of earlier today, I do have the next 3 shows slated out, and it's just always a delight for me of being able to have people take a chance on a little channel like me, because goodness knows I am a very, very small fish in a very, very big pond. But thanks to Woody, certainly, for being here. Thanks to anybody who's watching on Twitch right now, anyone who's on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. So hopefully you all are enjoying that Mega Mocap VR. I do appreciate you being able to chime in as we've gone, and hopefully anybody else who's sticking around will continue to do so. That I do apologize if I'm not paying super, super close attention to chat, but I do always keep an eye on things, want to make sure there's no troublemakers out there, but also, as with Mega Mocap VR, that if there are some interesting questions, that I do try to tie things into the ongoing conversation. So don't think that you need to be a super quiet studio audience for all of this. That even if it's just dropping the occasional emote in chat, as I saw Kisa Satoma doing. Also, I realized I missed Mr. Squarepeg's follow right at the start of the show, so terribly sorry about that, Mr. Squarepeg. Thank you so much if you're still around. Really do appreciate you. Yes, it's funny. I can see Woody chewing as he's on the other screen. And, Minchu was like, "Hey, need to just get a quick snack." I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure."
They weren't supposed to know. They weren't supposed to know about the chewing.
Well, you said that you were eating. I think that implies chewing.
I'm messing with you. It's fine.
Honestly, I'd be more impressed if you were able to eat without chewing. That would be possibly concerning. I'm not sure where that would fall, actually. But
You get a
anyways,
tube. You just get a tube. It's fine.
yes,
You go tube. Tube
IV
route.
drip.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes too. All right, I'm fueled up. I've just like chalked hummus into my body. I'm like,
very nice, very nice.
I'm all hummused up.
All right, bringing you back now. Video's gonna take a second to sort of depixelate.
It's okay. It's gonna take me a second to like dehummus. Yeah. So where were we? hummus?
Where were we, in fact,
So
actually?
here's something. Here's so like I'm so glad that you're shouting out your show because I think this is a really great show and I think the work that you're doing is really really cool. Something that I think people know who are watching this is that like Jay's whole thing is like kind of a challenge, right? It's like he'll stream as long as you stream, so it's like in my head I really love a challenge. So I'm like, I can't just nope out real quick. It's like I want to eat. I'm like, hey, give me 5 seconds. I'm gonna shove hummus into myself, and then we're gonna be right back to it, baby. Let's go. It's like I don't know. After, especially hearing after that Renslayer was here for
Yeah,
7 hours.
don't try and beat Ren's record. That'll mess up your sleep schedule.
Yeah, that's gonna. Yeah, that. Yeah, I look. You know what's funny? So like I all my stuff's in Eastern time. Um, speaking of locations, I guess. But I feel like like some of the people I most want to watch stream, I can't because of time zone differences and the
Oh,
fact that they want to work the late shift kills me.
time zones are the perpetual enemy of streamers everywhere. That I
Yeah,
learned that very, very quick. And just, it's marginally inconvenient if you're going to do even one or two time zones apart of just, even if you're Eastern to Pacific in the US. But then you get folks who are in Europe or in Australia or New Zealand and have fun with that. And hey, I've made it work and I'm going to continue to make it work. Spoiler alert. One of the next three guests is going to actually be someone who, when we have the show, it will be a different day for them than it will be for me.
that's
But
awesome.
we make it work.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, it honestly, it's like it's funny to me because like I don't like I guess I don't follow that many VTubers. Like when I look at your whole list here, it's like wow, that is a lot of people.
It's just, I don't know what I imagined or what I expected when I started VTuber Talk. That, when you start any project, you hope that it will have legs and go for a while. But it has been fun and also just sort of surprising to see that list slowly accumulate.
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
I didn't
do you
actually
have
know
like a
that you knew
limit? Like,
Ren until you mentioned them when we were talking earlier in the week.
what about Ren?
I didn't know that you knew Ren.
Oh yeah, I met Ren before. I know a good number of people who are on your list from time to time. Had some run-ins, in the big backstage of Twitch,
Yes, indeed.
and the goings on in the green rooms and the, you know, stopping by the craft services table and wait, no, that's film.
I understood that reference.
Yeah. What do they call it in theater? You were an
It,
actor. What do you call it for the food?
uh, in the highest level of theater I ever did was summer community theater, at which point it still wasn't craft services.
You
It
just
was
still
just
call it
it was
food?
just food slash catering. I learned craft services from doing event work.
Yeah, craft services in the film world is when you have catered lunch for the
Yeah.
set.
Yeah, and it's the same thing for events, that it is the professional term for catering and food. I've never understood where, like, catering, I understand. I don't know how it became craft services. I think that somebody was just trying to
Kraft
make
mac and
their
cheese.
department sound really fancy.
Yeah, I think honestly it was from Kraft mac and cheese, and that people just kept trying to like expand on that. Like someone was like, like people are like, oh yeah, I started this business with $1. It's like someone was like, I started this catering business with 1 box of Kraft mac and cheese. I think that's it.
I kind of now hope that's what it is, because at least that would be interesting and
Oh,
fun
that would be fun. Yeah, it's like, isn't it funny sometimes? It's like the plausible explanation is like way more fun than
than the actual one.
yeah, totally. It's like I will go for that like 9 times out of 10. Um, Man, I was thinking more about clone stuff while I was eating the chips. It's like,
Any big revelations on the ongoing clone efficiency and ethics concept?
I really do think you gotta like it's an internal thing. You gotta be there. You gotta reach like a certain level of enlightenment to continue on. You know, like you gotta really like just be at peace with yourself and like be ready to like live out whatever clone assignment that you get in the next life. I don't know.
There will
Repeating
be a
myself
written
here.
and mental evaluation before you get your clone license.
Yeah, I think so. It's like here's a question about the clones that I'm thinking about. It's like, would you take a bullet for your other clones? And like, isn't that redundant?
Mm. And
I don't know. You can cut me off here.
it's the question that it's an
Just
interesting
like-
question because that if we are not working with the hive mind concept here, that each has its own distinct consciousness, which is the angle we seem to have been taking, especially with the possibility of the distinct experiences and different clones growing to have disagreements, that you have the very not even human, but just the natural inclination of survival, of the concept of taking a bullet for anybody else is a very, very extreme thing of just at what point would you be willing to forego your own existence? And the question of, okay, if I know that the other me still would be existing, but at that point, if we're interchangeable, why do I need to take the bullet in the first place? That if we are redundant to begin with,
Yeah.
why would this expression of being a savior be relevant or required anyway?
Yeah. The like the other thing is that like it's still very painful to die. So like I don't know, I have to assume I would like be fine if all of my clones scatter when the shooting starts. But like you know how like some people are like, oh well, if we get teleportation, it's just going to be flash cloning, and like you just get instantly cloned on the other side, and then the first
Mhm.
clone's got to die. It's like I would never teleport. Like I don't care how humane it is if like you make the death painless. I'm not gonna just like I don't know. I'm just not gonna just pop into this tube and then just like hope that I'm like the one on the other side, because like that
Mm.
consciousness is not gonna transfer. You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna work like that. That's a different guy. That's a different guy over there. He's me, but he's a different guy. There's no way. There's no way. I think about that one sometimes.
Yeah, the whole concept of teleportation, that I have heard that particular theory, and I can understand that one of just that if it is your particles being broken down then reassembled, that at what level is it truly the same entity, of just that is the whole question of what is, at least at this point in history, science fiction, and that with the with that unknown, that I can very much respect that decision.
Yeah. Jay, I'm gonna ask you something, and it's mostly because I find myself ridiculous. But do you ever get like on one of these streams? Do you ever get stuck talking about something ridiculous that you don't want to be talking about with VTubers? Like, do you ever find yourself in a spot where it's just like, oh, okay,
I
dude
don't
wants to keep talking about this subject? Like,
I don't think I've ever been on a tangent where I am thinking in the back of my head, "Oh gosh, I hope we get off of this. I don't want to talk about it." That the big thing for me as a host said, I am generally agnostic on the topic. That if the guest is enjoying the topic and is getting good conversation, that means that I've succeeded as a host. That the only time that I think in the back of my head of, okay, we should move off of this, is when I notice that the guest is uncomfortable or is not having a good time, and then I'm gonna like even forcibly railroad the conversation to something new. But in this case of the clone concept, it's something that you're clearly enjoying. So while it's unexpected, that I will say I regularly have unexpected tangents, but more often than not, it's the unexpected tangents that end up being the most memorable and the most fun.
yeah, yes. I mean, okay, that's very gracious. We can effectively close a chapter of this talk, which I'm calling Clone Ethics 202. Because we just did
Yay!
it again. But
Oh, this is absolutely going in the YouTube description of join Jay and his guest Woody as they discuss filmmaking, clone ethics, and a couple other things that I always select a couple highlights to put in the YouTube description. Clone ethics is going in there, no question.
yeah, sounds good. I actually, so like, here's the thing, right? Like it might be possible digitally, right? Like, and like maybe even now. Like, I don't think I've seen anyone give it like a proper go yet, but with like large language models, like in AI, like it does seem like you could feed the machine enough information about yourself to give its best interpretation of you. Like that does
I would
seem
certainly say we're at the point where we are closer than ever, and that I for the first time, would at least be willing to entertain that as a possibility with what we've seen of chat AI models. Yes.
Yeah. So that's like that's interesting too. That's very interesting to me. It's like, oh, maybe there is a version of this that like, and how detailed does it get? And like also, like, what does it do with that information? Like, do you feel comfortable really
Yeah.
like giving the AI all of that stuff about
The
you?
concept of creating a bot to automate a task has been a thing in computers for decades at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just, at what point do the bots become a bit more sophisticated or knowledgeable? Is there any efficiency or value in adding those elements to a bot, of just, you know, a certain level of creativity or personalization for artistic things of uh, that obviously broader ethics in AI is a big thing right now,
Right.
and
That's
that
huge.
the concept of consent for someone allowing their likeness or their material to be used in an AI model is paramount. But a conceptually ethical way that this could be used is if a writer uploads their own material, their own writing to a chat bot and it says, all right, I'm only using things I myself have written in the past as the basis. And I'm going to use this then to generate a couple of concepts because I don't know where I want to start my new book. So this is literally me taking my own thoughts and
Mm.
experiences, not anybody else's. And it's just throwing something in to be spat out that I will then take and, I will still write the
Actually,
book myself. But that's something that could be interesting of you, quote unquote, thinking of your own concepts for yourself.
I actually don't think that's possible in the agnostic way that you've described it. Like
It might
the
not be. I'm not super educated. I'm talking very high level here.
this came up when with a lot of the image generation stuff was couldn't you as an artist just build your own database that the AI can reference and base new work off of your old work? And I heard some people were trying it. Here's the thing, like most people don't generate enough work in their lifetime to be able to create a foundational model. That like all of these
Mm.
things need foundational models. Um, and these foundational models, they don't get sourced ethically. They just take stuff.
Oh
They
yeah,
just
that a
scrape the
lot of
internet.
what we have out there right now is not
Yeah.
ethically sourced, and I
Yeah.
don't
So
know what is
I
required
mean,
in terms of critical mass for that.
in terms of people knowing, like it's like a bunch of people were just like, this is fine, and then just took stuff. Like it's true for the coding models, it's true for the image gen models. I'm not necessarily against using these things, but like I am like against the way they were sourced. I don't think you're evil if you use Chat GPT, but I do think that like it would be totally fair for any like people to sue them for the unethical ways they like scrape data to build their models. Um, like honestly, like I just I don't feel like they should be protected from it just because ChatGPT is cool. Um, but and that's an interesting thing, right? Because it's like it's hard to hold both of those opinions at once. It's hard to hold the idea of like I like ChatGPT and also like I think it would be just if they got sued. Like,
Yeah.
I think they are getting sued. They're all going to get sued. Stability, which created one of the image gen models, not Dolly. It made, I think they're the ones behind Midjourney. There's a third one. It might be the third one, but they built, they built Stable Diffusion. That's what it is.
Mm.
Stability, Stable Diffusion, of course. So they like the people who are building image gen models of themselves, like of their own work, like you can't do that without a fundamental layer of like computers understanding what stuff looks like. Like that's what they need is they need so many images so they know what stuff looks like so they can figure out after they like, do their noise patterns and whatever to try and like hedge between all the data. It needs like all of that information. Like you can't, let's say you write a ton of books. Maybe if you're like one of those dudes who writes like thrillers for 60-year-old dudes, you know what I'm talking about? Like whenever you're in a bookstore, you'll see like a big bold font, it'll be some guy's name and they'll have like a bunch of like Tom
Oh yeah.
Clancy.
Mhm.
Like maybe if you've written that many books that you could like start to make a model, but I still don't think it's possible. You need like an entire internet to be able to
Yeah,
do it.
that critical mass is going to be too high for the vast majority of writers, and even those who have very, very large published works databases are probably only going to be able to educate a model in a rudimentary way.
Yeah, totally. The it's like I don't know. It's something I like I did kind of lose sleep on cuz like I think it's like it would be weird for me in the work that I'm doing not to explore these things and not to try and integrate them in projects like all of these AI models and stuff like in ways that was kind of really different with cryptocurrency because like cryptocurrency came through and that was a thing for 5 minutes, you know, when everyone was like, oh yeah, it's great. And some people made a lot of money, some people lost a lot of money. And you know, it's funny when I'm around, there's certain people I'm like groups of people I'm around who some of them are really into it, some of them aren't, and they, you know, are able to get along quite nicely and not talk about it. But with the AI stuff, it's like it has the same seediness, but it like seems a lot more useful, you know?
Yeah,
So
I can very much recognize that there are many potential practical applications for AI models in ethical manners if approached from the proper developmental and usage standpoint. It's
mhm.
just that there are so many pitfalls along the way for unethical development and unethical use alongside the ethical development and use. And
Yeah,
in
I
these
mean,
early days that things haven't exactly gotten off on the right foot.
no, I don't think so. I mean, like, look, you just can't foundationally do that without like unpaid labor, which is like, you know, I live in America. It's like America's not awesome at unpaid labor stuff. Like, you know, I mean, look, I'm a content creator. It's like I can never, almost never, like afford to pay people what they're worth unless we're, you know, working with clients. So like, there's definitely times where I've like, you know, asked people to work for me or something, but like, not for free. But like, you know, wish I could pay them more. But like the you know, like there are things that are institutions in America that have been built on the fact that like no one wanted to pay up and like get other people a working wage. So
Hmm.
like it's upsetting to me that those same I see that those that same sticker gets stuck on this AI stuff, both in the way that they build these models, but also some of the people who are excited about these because they just want to like replace their employees. It's like how boring. That's like that's like what's the point? Like to me, like part of what's cool about projects is when they bring people together. Um, you know, like building a VR game, it's like really fun to share it with my dad because my dad and I love playing VR games. Building a you know a chat RPG game, like come hang out in my chat. I will prepare a game for you. We can like you can be a player character in it. We can be here in the room together. Like I really want the work I'm doing to be you know inclusive and I want it to bring people in and I want to create group memories. One thing we haven't talked about much, and it's probably good because it's kind of a double beat, but like I also do interviews, kind of like how Jay does them here, and like the you know one of the things I do is like I try to play an interactive game with the people who come in because like I want to create memories with people. Like at the end of the day, that's what's important. And I don't think it's like I don't know. It's like let's say you make an AI bot that just like mines money and like farts out productivity and like it replaces everyone in your company and it makes you a bag. It's like what was the point of that? You know what I mean? Like to me, if like you want to make a lot of if you want to make money or make a lot of money or make any money, like you want to make it doing something that's a good story.
Yeah, and just it even going as far back as automation that like mechanical automation that in some ways like if AI can make it so we don't need people to do the most rudimentary data entry so those people
Yeah.
can do better jobs, learn cooler things that it's generally in my opinion a good thing that we have automated riveting nowadays that we
Yes.
don't need to have someone who spends their life just holding a drill or a wrench in their hand and moving their arm back and forth. I think that is a net positive to society. And it's a net positive for business along the way, yes. And that they did indeed replace jobs that they used to pay people to just sit with the wrench all day and just go, and that we
I
don't do
mean,
that now. And I think that's a positive because now those
sound
people can do cooler things, more fulfilling things.
it does sound like you know nice in the antique way. You know, like everybody I feel like has this fantasy now of like I wish I could just go hop like get in a cottage. You know, like wish I could just, leave it all behind and like go fishing and live at the cottage and like my cozy little space that's disconnected from technology. Am I the only one? I feel like I hear more and more people saying this, like the cottage fantasy.
I think there's the romanticization of it,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
I look at it and I say, okay, but do you realize just how many conveniences you will lose if you want to truly remove all like technology and automation, and how many hours of your day you are going to spend burning away doing other things, whether that be, modern plumbing, drawing water, of being able to, make sure that your house is warm and lit and all these other things. And all right, yes, there are a lot of negatives. There's a lot of baggage that we have accumulated over the years from technology, no doubt. And it's just, where is the balance? And for sure, that balance is going to vary by person. That for some people, yes, living that cottage lifestyle just away from society will fulfill them, and that they're okay with that, and that they do not mind the inconveniences that come with it.
Yeah.
But I
Good
also, to everybody who offers that thought experiment, I always say, think about all of the implications.
No,
And
for
that,
sure. Like I don't want to like churn my own butter. Like that's for sure. You know? Like yeah, I mean like it's I just want like the rest of it to be taken care of somehow while I like have no obligations and like enjoy the anachronisms of yesteryear. Like I don't really want to I don't really want to do the work, of course not. You know what I mean? Like I love going to the store. I don't know. I went to the store last night and ice cream was an additional $3 than what they used to sell it for. So like I don't know. Maybe I do want to churn my own ice cream, but 'cause, life keeps getting expensive and stuff. Yeah, I mean, that is what I want at the end of the day. And I think like it's interesting is like I actually feel like video games are a better and streaming is a better way to do community specifically, that aspect of it, than what I was just doing with filmmaking. Like I feel like I felt a little bit of this then, but maybe I can actually put a pin on it now. When I was just focused on filmmaking, there's something really insular about how filmmaking works. Like you spend so much time trying to like write this story and film it and put it together, and then you really want people to watch it, and it's just kind of this like weird thing that you do in a cocoon, and then you come out and then like I don't know, people are like doing their thing, and you're like, will somebody like please love me? Will somebody please watch this ridiculous thing that I made, please? Like, and it's
And then
that's
even if you have people watching it, for the most part, you're not going to see them watching it, enjoying it, and that Steven Spielberg has not seen the vast majority of people who has seen his movies or
Oh my
experienced
gosh.
them experiencing it. Whereas
Right.
if you are streaming, you are in real time experiencing the people experiencing your content.
Right. And like also with like video games you get like the sorry, I just saw Ren's
Right? Yeah. Speak of the devil.
I saw it didn't load with the emote in the side chat where I had so it pulled up, and the name of that emote is just Bone Zone, and
Zone,
it just made
yes.
me laugh. um, but like making video games is the same way too. Like when you pull in a room of people to like to play a video game together, whether or not it's a video game you've made, is like it's really neat because you can all kind of share in this like story you build together versus just like this linear story that happened once that like if it was really good, it was moving. If you're all holding a controller and you're all either sort of in some sort of competition or you're trying to collaborate to create a result, like it's this magic that you corporately decide what it was and what was moving about it, and you all like felt it. It all was felt in the moment because it was happening in the moment. Like it was like being generated on the fly, and there's like kind of there's no real substitute for that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to sound profound here, Jay.
Well, it goes to the broader thing of just games as a medium being interactive art, and that streaming as a medium is a inherently more interactive form of content creation and entertainment than most other content creation and entertainment, because you have that live feedback aspect, which just you simply haven't been able to get in a lot of other mediums. And that in the way of being able to bring people together, that you're seeing the actualization of those concepts in ways that we haven't been able to do before. And that as VTuber and just, technology at large continues to improve, we're likely to see those types of interactions and being able to bring people together in new and different ways that we simply haven't been able to in the past. And it makes sense for someone like you who enjoys bringing people together. Like you said, that is very much the crux of a lot of your development. And it makes that transition from filmmaking into this type of development and streaming very logical, because it's just you've honed in on those elements of the more passive filmmaking that you enjoyed and are now using that as the, pun half intended here, lens through which you create your content now.
I like it. Lens. Nice. Yeah, I like the word, like sort of like a guiding mantra, I guess, is like a mantra doesn't necessarily make sense in and of itself. It's just like a, word strung together, or even syllables, right? So like a mantra of mine, not a motto, a mantra specifically, is like digital Gandalf. Like the thing that's great about Gandalf as a character is he's kind of doing exactly that. Like he's always kind of drawing people into an experience together. He's always looking for that like 14th adventurer to go on the trip, because the dwarves don't like the number 13 or whatever. And it's or like, he's like he's someone who incites incidents. He's someone who brings people into something bigger and more exciting and life changing. Even if he himself isn't like always the center of attention, or the person who like, is the main character. Like part of what makes Gandalf great is that like he's willing to go off and do like, like battle with a Balrog, like falling through an enormous mountain into like the depths of the earth and climbing back up again to like, eventually, like he's like off doing his own stuff all the time, but like he's stirring things up and he's trying to get people where they need to go. And I like that so much. And I think like that's part of what I like didn't have with just filmmaking. Like it's kind of everything we were just talking about, right? It's kind of like, it's like the linear nature of the medium and whatever. It's like you can't, it's like it's insular, like I said. Maybe I'm just repeating myself here, but like I think I specifically was a person who just wanted people to like watch my stuff. And I still feel that way sometimes. I still feel like oh yeah, I just want like a bunch of people to watch my YouTube videos. I just want people to like, interact with my things, send me the likes, all that stuff. Like I want the engagement, like, cause it's like you gotta be honest, like you're doing this for a reason. We're all hoping for a response. It's not wrong to want a response. You can get too obsessed about it, but like at the end of the day, like something that has been a peculiar joy that I did not see coming is when I've seen people take the stuff that I've put out there, like this goes back to tutorials, and like use those tutorials. Like I didn't imagine that I'd be where I'm at now. Like I didn't imagine also that I would just be like, kind of like, still a little competitive, still a bit like, oh, so-and-so's doing that. Like I want to do that. I want to do that too. That's awesome. Like,
yeah, that it's not coming from a place
like,
of I need to do better than them. It's I see that thing that looks fun.
I want to be part of that. Yeah. And like just happy to be like, have been helpful in other people's creative journey is like a weird, peculiar joy that I didn't see coming. It's been special and really cool. Like just that's the digital Gandalf element of it. That's such a woody, like head ass like thing to like like way to put that. It's just
I've never even thought of Gandalf from that particular way. That when you initially invoked the name, I was saying, all right, wizard of being able to create fantastical experiences and things. And to be fair, that is something that you do with your development, that you are able to create some things that for those who don't understand the workings of it can just seem like magic.
Yeah.
But the concept of Gandalf as someone who brings people together is not off base. And
Right.
as soon as you
He
said
does
it,
both.
that as soon as you brought it up, it's like, oh, yeah, of course he is. That's literally what he does. His whole thing is he's assembling the party, and that he sees what the party needs to be complete in Bilbo Baggins, and then later in Frodo, and is able to literally bring people together for that.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So to be fair, Gandalf does both things. Like he brings people together, and I love that. But also, he does get to flex. Let's say that because like we're kind of like closing out our time here, right? Yeah, like, and if I'm putting a pin on it, and I'm saying like, hey, this is me. I'm Woody. This is what I'm doing. The
Big
Mega said,
mocap.
is he Sauron? Yes, Mega is the senior wizard in my order for sure.
Well, is he
And
also going to be the senior wizard who goes bad and causes havoc and mayhem and potentially leads to your downfall?
nah, he's a pretty chill dude.
Oh, okay.
But the um, uh, Gandalf like brings people together, yes, but like Gandalf also does cool shit. Like he also will just, like have some cool side battle in the middle of the Hobbit movies, which is actually one of the few book accurate things that happens in the. It's like when he's like having a duel with Sauron like by himself, like that's like a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's it happens is like he was investigating that whole situation during the storyline of the Hobbit. It's canon, and like he also does like he gets to flex. He gets like the sick white robes when he comes back. He gets the dope ass horse. Like he gets he does like so like it's I enjoy both things for sure. Like I like bringing people together to like have them go on their quest, but also like I
There's
have
nothing
more
wrong with
cool.
wanting to have fun yourself along the way.
No, there isn't. And I've got a lot more cool stuff that I'm really excited for people to see. Like I've already done things that like I like, it's been cool even to see some of the reactions I've gotten from people in high places. Like, uh I feel like I haven't scratched the surface yet of like some of the stuff that we can do in this like wonderful married medium of interactive meets linear meets game engines meets streaming meets Twitch meets VTubers. Like I am having the time of my life right now.
And you've even mentioned that the Takahata game was able to actually sort of get the attention of a client, and that you were able to use that as
Can't
sort
talk
of a
about that one, Jay.
springboard. What?
I can't talk about that
Oh
one.
yeah, no, I know you can't talk about it. You mentioned in passing that it had it led to outside things, and nothing past that. Just that you were able to use the things that you've worked on here and have them possibly impact the other parts of your life outside of it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, like, that's something else that I'd say is like you're kind of as a person, like you're just kind of this like living ball of experiences. Sometimes some people are better at integrating them than others, and like being reflective about it, and like writing their memoir or like keeping a journal or just being introspective. But like all that stuff that happens to you comes back out somehow. Like part of the reason I wanted to tell you specifically while we're talking about this, about like some of the experiences I had working at a megachurch, is because like I want to push myself to like do something with that. This like digging into all the trauma isn't really what I wanted to do while I have the great privilege of talking to you tonight. But like the like I do want to do something with those experiences, because I want people to like as much as I want people to like benefit from my tutorials, I also want them to like not have to go through traumatic interpersonal stuff at an abusive company or an abusive institution. Like that is something else I'm thinking about as I'm considering my future projects. Is like how do I make a Woody Devs project that can like where I can talk about like I got emotionally abused somewhere, and like what like share what was helpful that I lived through, and like tell people what I wish I knew. Like that I honestly is like that hasn't changed. Like with filmmaking, like there's like a big thing for me was like, okay, like I want to document my experiences and like be able to share anything that's helpful with people. And like even as someone who's building all this interactive stuff, it's the same thing. Gosh, I'm getting so like sanctimonious right now.
It happens. It happens.
It's great. I'm like I'm a really earnest person, so like I don't know, like I it'd be like lame if I like got sucked into Harry Potter universe because like they fucking put me in Gryffindor. Like they just would do it. They'd just be like, ah, yeah, he seems like a good old chap. Like I don't know how British people talk, but like, um, that's why I like to stay inside the Lord of the Rings metaphor. But like, I don't know. Just like I'm, I'm one of those people that like tries and doesn't get very like. I'm not a nihilist. I'm not a I'm not like a this is all screwed. We're done. Like that's not really my thing.
Hmm.
It's like way more the opposite of like, oh yeah, let's go
Yeah.
do good stuff. Let's be great. Let's talk to people. Let's make
Yeah.
relationships. Let's be like that's
And that's the whole
so
concept of
freaking
bringing
yeah.
people together. Of that, that uh, yes, even if we are very small individuals, that we can still do really fun and cool things along the way, and being able to do fun things with other cool people is really fun too.
Yeah. No,
It's just
it
yeah.
certainly is. Um
Uh, so you sort of just led into things of the last couple questions that I always ask my guests. It's the few consistent points I have of do you have any goals for the remainder of 2023? So as of today, it is now May. We're in the 5th month of the year. It's weird to think that
yeah.
time marches forward, and I know there's definitely going to be a lot of projects that you cannot talk about. For the things that you can talk about, or for what you can't talk about and wish to discuss in vague terms, do you have anything that you're looking forward to or hoping to accomplish this calendar year?
Yeah, a ton of stuff. What's funny is like some of the projects I definitely can't talk about, but like aren't strictly NDA. Like you will find this in like for maybe there are other freelancers who know this already. It's like just because no one made me sign a document doesn't mean that it still wouldn't be like a
Oh yeah,
tremendously bad idea for me to
I am
talk
under
about.
a large number of NDAs and friend DAs.
Yeah. I'm not like remarkably tied down right now. Like I definitely have some NDAs, but like at the same time, like it's a lot of it's just like, ooh, well, like just I'll just be careful with that one. Yeah. I told you this before we got started, and I bring this up not to chastise you or anything, but like just for people out there, like I try not to talk about stuff before it's done, because even while you're doing stuff, sometimes like things don't always work out. Like I've had, like I did a game project last year that I was streaming that like I got to a place where it was like somewhat done, but like I haven't done anything with it. Like it didn't really end up going anywhere. I built like a DDR simulator, and I try not to put myself in a position to like talk too much about what's going on because it's more fun in your content creation to just be like, cool thing, boom, like just like
Ta-da!
keep hitting people with
Surprise!
the stuff. Like I try not to do the like, all right, you guys, I'm really excited to do this because like I've also had streams where I just like I don't know, I was working on something, I was really excited to be working on it, and then midway through the stream, like something wasn't there or I had a personal problem or something where I just had to cut stream and it was just like, oh well, maybe I should always work on all of my stuff in secret. And I'm not streaming as much these days, but so maybe I need to find ways to make it happen again. But like, yeah, I definitely have some stuff, but I don't think I could give you a clear, clean answer. But you'll be seeing stuff.
Yeah, so be sure to, follow, like, subscribe, Woody Debs, and make sure you keep up with this stuff.
Yeah. Just keep hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, we got cool stuff up ahead.
And the last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that's not the concept of what is a VTuber, but different people get different things from VTubing. I've had folks say, it lets me get in touch with my inner child, or it lets me be someone I can't be in real life. Others have had a more clinical approach and said, it's a tool in my toolbox as a content creator. I don't have any real attachment to my model, but it lets me do cool things I couldn't do otherwise. And everything between and beyond that is totally valid. But for you, Woody, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
I mean, I think being a VTuber for me is just one more way to get to be myself, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, I will say for you, like I said, I asked that question because I do want people to answer for themselves, whether it be something succinct like that or whether it be a bit more poetic. That I like getting that answer in people's own words, and some are more easy to predict than others. And while I don't know how people will answer, like I wasn't sure if you were going to wax poetic or have the clean one-liner there, the answers always make sense. and certainly, just speaking these past couple hours of your incredible journey through filmmaking and development and the different projects you've done, and even the concepts that we were just discussing about bringing people together, that for you, your model is you, that for VTubing to come into your life in the way that it has and take the place that it has for you as a content creator and as a working professional, frankly, that it very much does let you be you in this whole new
Yeah.
way. And I I expect to see a lot more people follow in your footsteps, frankly.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could wax poetic a little harder. Like, I think that there are times in my life where I didn't think I liked being myself or liked myself as much. Like, there are definitely times when I was younger, I didn't like me very much, even if I liked some of the benefits of being me. And I feel like that's kind of changed. Like, I've just it feels weird to say this because it's not like a place everybody always gets to, but like I like me. Like I think he's a cool guy. I think he's doing his best, and I'm just trying to help him get to where he needs to go. When it's a little VTuber on screen, it's like a great way to visualize an external thing, which is very much also happening internally, which is like, I'm just trying to guide me on my way to get where I need to go, and yeah, that's part of it. Also keeps creeps in the internet from figuring out where I live, but I guess that's over now. So
Eh.
yeah, no, I like being myself. Like, I am thankful to have the life that I have, and I want that for other people. I really want that for other people. Because I don't know, like I might just be like a really really lucky person, but I think I think it's a state. Like, I think it's a state you can get to where you can look at your life, all of the things, not necessarily glorifying the trauma or being feeling scarce about the good times, but like I think you can find a state for yourself where you're like, hey, like it's actually really dope that I get to be me today, and I'm gonna like do it the best I can.
Yeah, we not saying that bad times are required to be fulfilled and to end up in a good place, but sort of look back and say, hey, we made it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah. Like when I was in my early 20s, like working at a mega church, and like getting like verbally getting the shit beaten out of me, verbally. I don't think I really liked myself a bunch back then. But I really like myself. And that's like it's like a good destination.
Definitely. And just Woody, genuinely, thank you so much for being here tonight. This has been so much fun going
Wait, no, no, no,
through...
no, no! You can't
Well,
let the last thing I said
what?
be like I like myself. No, we gotta.
Oh, I thought that was great.
The other side of me that hasn't done all the growing yet is like, that sounds selfish. He sounds like an egotist. That's not great. It's like,
No,
what I
don't.
mean? Like,
That's not what happened
we talked about.
at the
I
film
told you this
festival.
story
That
about when
no,
I was
that
15 and I made an
that
ass of myself
no,
in
that
front of
that didn't
everybody.
sound
Oh
like
my
being an
gosh.
ass at all. That sounded like that sounded like an optimistic. We got to a good place, and now we're gonna go even farther.
I hope so.
Don't worry, you're fine, Woody.
Well, Jay, wait, hold on. But let me say this. This is a wonderful show. I love that you are a mysterious stranger on the internet who just goes around making space for other people and like giving them a canvas to be able to just, project whatever they really want to on this thing. It's in. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these. But the yeah, it's I think it's a really lovely thing you do, and I think whether you would word it like this or not, you are taking time to celebrate other people, and that is a really beautiful thing. And you're making memories and sharing stories, and I love it. So thank you for having me on. It was like a real honor, and like when you messaged me about this, I was like, freaking yeah, I'm psyched about this. Like, I'm really psyched to be able to be on VTuber Talks. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Like, genuinely, that type of stuff does mean a lot to me because I recognize, I'm a very, very small fish. I'm effectively very little of a following, and just the fact that someone can get a message from me and be excited about being on my show means that I've done something right along the way, and that I do try my best to make sure that when I have a guest on, that they are able to just have the fun time that they want to have, and like you said, sort of give them that canvas. So I'm happy to hear that I am succeeding in that regard. It does mean that to me that yay, I did good. I did the thing that I was trying to do.
Yeah, no, that's good. Take that. A lot of VTubers are bad about that. A lot of VTubers are not good at just taking the compliment. Just take that shit. Just take it.
Yeah.
You're a good person. You're doing great work. Just be like, just eat that. Just like,
Well, at the same
roll
time,
that up into a little burrito
I'm
and
going to turn that
take it
on you,
down.
Woody, and say, yeah, so don't you dare give yourself a good time, or sorry, don't give yourself a hard time.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Don't give yourself a hard time for saying the words, I like me. Come on, that's not bad. That's not egotistical. You're
Yep.
fine.
No, I know it deep down. I know it deep down. Just, just working through the rest of it.
So as we wind down, do you have someone you would like us to raid?
Oh, great question.
While he looks around for that, I'll take care of the last bits of housekeeping. Thank you to all the folks that have been in chat, whether you've been here for a minute or since the very beginning of over 3 hours ago now. So this has been episode 105 of VTuber Talk. As always, be sure to follow Woody if for some reason you aren't already. And if you're interested in more shows like these, you can follow me here on Twitch and on Twitter. It's just VTuber Talk both places. I do these about once a week, and you'll have to follow there because I can't promise you a regular schedule, but I can hopefully promise you a good time and lots of interesting guests. So
and to be fair,
feel
I
free
can't
to stop
either.
by again.
Let's raid Tempestus Husky.
Okay, yeah. Can you send me their username on Discord just to make sure I don't misspell it?
Yes. Hold on 1 second.
I saw them in here earlier.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we get everybody going to the right place. So
Tempestus is
do
a
spam
lovely-
some emotes. Let Tempestus know that Woody sent you all. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Tempestus is great. Tempestus is a really, really nice person. And gotten the chance to talk to them a number of times. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's just about going to do it, folks. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Woody, thank you as well. Tell Tempestus we say hi, and I will see you all next time.
Later.